Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to season 4 and episode number 574. I looked it up before we started this morning of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Crier Media Network. Yeah. And also episode number 66 of the True North Eager Beaver Interview Project. Yes, kids and cubs, because today we have a guest for you. A wonderful, delightful guest has decided to join us here at the Beaver Lodge. But before we do that, a big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. It's a lovely day here at the Beaver Lodge so far, and let's hope it continues. But before we do anything else, Mr. Grizzly, how is your mental health doing today? Again, I see you're wearing something that's kind of pinkish, so I'm thinking it's good.
Sorry, I was muted there. It is pink. I'm doing a little bit better. Still having tossing, turning, rather sleepless insomnia nights, and had a bit of an allergic reaction to something last night. No idea what it is, but my left eye, you can't really see it on camera, but the white of it is swollen. It was worse last night, so I'm recovering to a certain degree. It wasn't hospitalized or anaphylaxis or anything like that, but it's just unpleasantness and uncomfortable. So I move on. I roll with the punches. That's what I do. But mental health wise, still a bit of an uphill struggle. Getting better each day. Hopefully by the end of the week, I'll be myself again. But time will tell. Time will tell.
Mm-hmm. My Left Eye, I remember that. That was a good sequel.
Yes. My left foot.
Yes. as soon as you said my brain, it's weird. Okay. Kids and cubs, I'm doing well as well. For those of you who are following me on the internet, I'm not going to say too much here because we have guests, but you know that I will be leaving this afternoon for a medical procedure, or I should say later this morning. So if I have to leave suddenly and go off camera, that's okay. I will be back. All right. Okay. Kids and cubs, we have a guest here that we have wanted on the show for quite a long time, particularly when we were doing shows during the COVID time, because this person was a very, very fierce and needed advocate.
And still is.
At that moment. And still is, but at that particular time.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had an election for Doug, and Doug Ford won it again, where Ontarians did not show up. And if you were following our coverage, we could not understand how it is that the issue of the incredible number of people who died in long-term care centers and the lack of inspections that preceded that, and the iron ring being put around the shareholders, as Mr. Grizzly likes to remind us, and not actually the patients.
Correct.
Not grandma and grandpa and mom and dad.
Residents.
Right. Right. Or even brothers and sisters if we're talking about other types of long-term care, right? Not necessarily end of life. And it didn't seem to be an issue. Well, since then, we've had a couple of other things that we've learned about the Premier of Ontario that have added some color and texture, like, for example, his persistent disdain, seemingly, for kids with autism, and the fact that children in the child welfare system are staying sometimes at Airbnbs, sometimes in bed-bug-infested motels, sometimes even in the offices of children's aid societies because there is no place to send them. And of course, as we also reported, there were a certain number of parents not being able to find resources for their children, basically surrendering them to foster care, who can't access the resources either because they do not exist.
It's pretty brutal.
So when you add all the things that we've learned about him since, it kind of adds some color and texture to the care that he had for our elders then and has shown since, or lack of care, for, if we want to be precise. So,
we'll dig into
it. oh, yes, we will. So our guest is a doctor, and I'm sure we'll get into that too, because some people try to, as often happens with women who have doctorates, try to diminish their worth or their value as not being a real doctor. But my Beaver sweetie, who also is a PhD, would argue, because he loves being an academic, that PhDs are the real doctors and the other doctors are not. But
doctor of medicine. Yeah. Unless you have a PhD in medicine, you're not a real doctor, according to your doctor partner. Yeah.
Unless you're doctor and you're singing a refrain from the Thompson Twins. So, kits and cubs. Yeah, really. Eh? Kits and cubs, please put your paws up and give a big round of applause for Dr. Vivian Stamatopoulos. Welcome to the Beaver Lodge.
You're so sweet.
Hi.
I'm
so happy to have you.
I'm so happy to be here. I see all the comments and I see Ryan's here. I see a few people I know. I'm like, oh, yay. So sweet.
Well, welcome to the Damn Fam. That's
yes.
That's their moniker is the Damn Fam. So there are a lot of great people that join us each and every morning for the live show, and then we have a litany of other folks who have joining us to watch the show after it's live, because not everybody can watch at 7 a.m. and some of us
Hello, British Columbia.
Go to.
So we have been in talks like for a while but I mean you understandably very busy, and then we had a couple of life throw us a couple of curveballs. So finally our schedules kind of connected, and kind of very surprisingly, because it was just last night.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you two were talking, and yeah. So I am absolutely delighted that you're here. I ask Mr. Grizzly when we start every show, how's your mental health doing today? We also ask it of our guests. So how is your mental health doing today?
It's okay. It's okay. But yeah, no, like I get it. I've had challenges too, especially of late. Yeah, so I get it. It's like this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some days I'm like, oh, and these days with Trump and with Ford, it's testing my resolve. So that's for sure. So
I'm sure you saw his commentary about Gaza last night.
I can't even
Yeah, I know. No, I'm the same. I'm like,
what? Like, what's gonna happen tomorrow?
I find amazing with him. It's like where time starts. It's like, well, things are like that now. I mean, it's perfect for developing now. Yeah, but do you remember there's like thousands of years of stuff before?
Wild. He is so dangerous. It's out of control.
Oh my! But
and let's not forget his buddy. Well, at least somebody who wants to be his buddy, Doug Ford, who 100% supported him. 100% was happy he got elected. Right?
Oh, he was always open about that, though. And
yes, that's true. That's true.
Big supporters, are they not?
He said that for years, that he was a big-time Republican supporter.
Well, I mean,
pretty much a Republican.
Well, I mean, he refers to Etobicoke as a state, so
He does?
Yeah, the great state of Etobicoke. So we jokingly call him we've been calling him the governor of the great state of Etobicoke for about a year now.
I mean,
So
I can't. I can't.
I know, it's just really weird. The thing with him that I found interesting, and I'd like to get your view on that, but then we want to get into what your what your expertise is the hot mic moment, right?
Yeah.
He's trying to explain it away when we saw it in a press conference as, like this, okay, he makes me swear now and then. It's like, it's not the swearing with which people had issue here in that thing.
No.
And the thing here is that this was said after January 6th, after the E. Jean Carroll decisions,
How about
both
after
of them.
his first term? Like, the guy's been a maniac from the very beginning. This is not a surprise. Like, he's an awful, awful human being.
Yes. But like E. Jean Carroll, civilly adjudicated as, for all intents and purposes, a rapist, as the judge clarified the second time around, 34 felony convictions, openly campaigning on slapping us with tariffs again when he's already done it before, and still wanted him to win. Like, what?
It's very telling. I tweeted yesterday. It's like, Blue Sky Dan tweeted. It's getting hard. It's getting hard to manage. But yeah, it's just like, you're telling on yourself. You're telling on yourself. Like, if that's the kind of person you support generally, like, and I think for me, it's like, what happened to integrity? What happened to principles? What happened to like basic morality? You should never stand by people like this. And it's not just because of the leopard faces. You saw those memes going around, rightly so. You can't trust people that have zero integrity or principles. And I would have these conversations with people who'd be like, well, I actually had a couple friends who were considering voting for Trump, and I was like, what? Like, what? Like, what? Like, let's we need to talk about this. And then friendships go to hell. But
that's okay though. That's okay to let those friendships go to hell, because you don't need that in your life.
It's for me. I know that there's shades of gray, and I get that, but some things are black and white. Some things are black and white.
Precisely.
And if you are on that side of things, we're going to have a problem. We're just going to have a problem, because I cannot get on board with people who support convicted felons, clear misogynists. He's a malignant narcissist. And these people are deeply vindictive. They're wildly unpredictable. And everything is chaos. If you want a chaos agent in your life who is a psychopath, great. Then support that. But what does that say about you? What kind of person are you?
The amount of people saying right now, if you wanted to know what your reaction would have been if you were in Germany in 1939, you're living in it right now.
Yeah. I know. I've been scared for a while. I've had a couple. I mean, like, I'm in a criminology program. So for people who don't know me, I'm a professor in a criminology program at Ontario Tech University out in Oshawa. But my research, ever since I was a PhD student, was in caregiving. So I'm kind of like a weird fix. Like I'm in this criminology program, but I also do caregiving and long-term care research, right? Thankfully, they let me do whatever I want. But obviously, I have an interest in criminology and Trump in particular. And I've noticed his danger from the very beginning. I've had multiple panels at the academic level about this man in his first presidency. And it's in October, I had one. Warning people. Like, we've been warning people. I mean, my colleague, who I've done both of these panels with, webinar, she just got the Order of Canada for her research in far right extremism and the role that Trump has in porous borders. And like, don't assume that what happens there isn't coming here. Like, and it directly came here through the convoy and everything that happened there. That's a and I'm not going to go into that, but it's a problem. And if people don't think what happens there impacts us.
It does, though. That's the thing. It's the ripple effect, right? Pebble in the pond, ripple effect. The ripples hit everybody eventually. Yeah. And nobody seems to understand that. I got into it yesterday with a fella on Blue Sky who was trying to tell me that the biggest lying, most divisive politician, prime minister in Canadian history is our current prime minister. And I'm
Get out of here. Get out of here with this.
Again. I'm like, You're just an agent of chaos, because there's nothing to back that up.
I mean, I was literally having this talk at dinner on Saturday night, and I'm like, with somebody who I know who speaking of when you guys were saying that, some people were mocking my PhD. And I think immediately whenever I hear that, I think Brian Lilly, because he was the one that randomly one day woke up and decided to start attacking me as not a real doctor. I'm like, who the hell are you? What's your problem, dude? I don't know who you are. Why are you picking a fight with me? Like, he's just
coattail riding.
A mean person. Like, why? Because I'm getting attention to your buddy, your girlfriend's buddy. I don't know. Like, what's your problem? Why are you giving me a hard time? But it's like you just woke up and decided these are these people, right? They just wake up and go, we're just going to attack people for the sake of our fun. I don't know. It's an entertainment to us. Then we have, we clap back, but it's like, what do you like? And I just said to him, like, okay, I'll wait for you to do a PhD. Go nuts. See you when you're done.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like, 10 years of my life. Do you know how hard that was? Do you know how much I sacrificed to do this?
A damn hell of a lot.
Get out of here. Like, what are you doing? I worked full time, like at the same time, because I'm not wealthy and I had to pay my bills and pay for my school and like get scholarships and make it work. Like, it's not easy. And the dropout rate is ridiculous because it's not for everyone. It's the longest marathon you'll ever do. But I'm so happy I did it. And in my education means the world to me. But this is what I mean. It's like people like just decide to attack you for these ridiculous things that ordinarily people would be proud of. Like it's, the Trumps, the Republicans, they will find anything to just mock people. And it's just ludicrous.
Well, they call you elitist if you're educated.
Yeah. As someone who's, I haven't done one myself, but has watched someone do every step of the way, 7 years it took. I was like, and how exhausted I was. Was that just watching and supporting? I cannot imagine going through that gauntlet myself. And like, I was a book nerd. Like, I liked school. And once I was done my bachelor's, it's like, yeah, I think I'm done for now. Like this, I still want to learn, but I was ready to go into the world. And a lot of professors said, you're going to do a master's, and it's like, well, I'd like to. But it's the world out there.
Yeah.
Right. It's a thing.
Then you do the master's, then you apply for your PhD. So you gotta get all three. Yeah.
But I was sitting there and then I was, but my main thing that made me decide not to is like, I'm sitting there, I was like, but I can't think of a question yet that I really want to answer. Like, I haven't gone out and lived, right? And I figured that comes. So I figured I'd go out. Now I have a couple of questions if I wanted to go do a master's and a PhD that I would consider. But back then I had no clue.
Things change. Things
do change. Yes.
Like, I remember when I started my PhD, I was doing political economy. So of course, politics and obviously global economy and globalization, all this stuff has always interested me. But then because of my personal experience, and this leads into why I'm an advocate, I started caregiving for my grandparents when I was in my PhD. And then you realize anyone that does caregiving full time, it's your life, right? Like you're just trying. But I was younger doing it, right, than most people. So then I felt like I didn't fit in with my friends because I was like my mid to late 20s and into my 30s, where usually when you take on this kind of role, it's like adult women in the sandwich generations, right? But not often younger caregivers. So then I'm sitting there doing this. I'm struggling. I'm not really fitting in with my friends because they're all going on vacations, getting their first homes, starting their first real jobs. And I'm like, oh, I have to go, deal with my grandparents' condo and make it safe and take them on appointments and cancer treatments and all this stuff. And I just felt like I didn't fit. So it was hard, right? But I remembered one day in my PhD, and I had an idea about what I was going to do. And then one day I encountered, I don't know how, it was my PhD stats course. And one girl was talking about this study she read about younger caregivers in the UK. And I was like, what? This is a thing? There's research on this? So then I just threw myself into it. And then I realized, oh my God, in the UK, there's this whole literature around young carers or young caregivers, people that are young, and the government supports them and they actually enumerate them. And they have hundreds of organizations helping these kids. We have nothing. It was like a complete vacuum in Canada for these kids that are doing this work. So I go, okay, that's it. I need to start looking into this, obviously, because I had personal, a vested interest. And then I started that. I just literally one day went to my supervisors, because you have to have a team of supervisors who monitor your work, right? And I said, like, this is the last thing supervisors ever want to hear. I'm like, hey, everyone, I think I want to change my focus. And they're like, I'm like, I think I'm going to jump into a whole new literature that none of you know about, and neither me, but I'm just going to, and give myself a ton of more work in the process to relearn a whole new literature. But I'm like, this is where my passion is right now. There's a clear void of this area in the research in Canada. And this is what I your gut just tells you this is what you have to do. And then, so I did my whole, dissertation, which is your book, your final book, in research on young caregivers, which was awesome. And then it got me into the caregiving research world. And then obviously, when my grandparents got old enough that I literally ended up buying where I'm living. Like I bought an apartment in their apartment on a different floor to be close to them, to help them out. Like that's it was intense. So I'm still here. They're not, which sucks because you feel like, what am I doing here now? Anyway, that's a separate story. But so then one of them aged into long-term care and we didn't have a choice. It's like you don't want this. I stayed here. I moved in here for the love of God to keep them here as long as possible. When it gets to the point, this is why I get so upset with some people that are like, take them home. What's your problem? If you love them, you'd care for them. You have no idea what you're talking about.
Right. Exactly.
Like some people will always need institutional long-term care. And that's another group of people I find myself, in debates with, like, cancel all these homes, get rid of them all. Yeah, I wish that was a feasible option, but it's not. There are some people who will always need institutional care. And, for my situation, like my grandmother was pretty overweight. I couldn't lift her. If I could, I would have, and then became bedbound. And I literally could not even get her on and off to go to the bathroom. I just couldn't do it. I'm not a big woman. I tried, do weights. I tried, does not help. But there's only so much I can do.
Right.
And the technology to, get Hoyer lifts, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars. It's not feasible. It's not feasible.
Right.
And nobody wants to go to long-term care, but it got to that position. And then and all of a sudden I find myself in the long-term care system. And this was not one that I really knew a lot about. Ironically though, in my first year of my PhD, I was put on a research study with Pat Armstrong, Dr. Pat Armstrong, who is the leading Canadian expert in long-term care. And I was on one of her international studies of long-term care. And I did, funny enough, research. It was my first peer-reviewed publication on the woefully absent staffing ratios for nursing in, long-term care homes in Canada, but we did a 6-country comparison. But this is what I had that experience of doing that research. Fast forward 10 years, now I'm in this world, and it just, you can read about it, and then when you enter it, it's like nothing you could ever imagine. It's until you live it, and this is why I become so close with like my long-term care community and the families, because if I was just an academic studying it from the outside, it's one thing. I was that person, but not until I lived it did all of these pieces snap together. And I was like, oh my God, this is horrific. Like you read it in black and white, you're like, oh, that sounds awful. Until you see it yourself, you're like, oh, this is a problem. We got to do something about this.
And that's the thing with issues with healthcare and whatnot. It's the same thing we're seeing with the hospital closures, right? And all emergency room closures. This has been happening. Like, for example, all the time that this has happened, I personally, thank goodness, have not had to go to an ER.
I say that all the time.
So I personally have not experienced yet a 14-hour or 12-hour wait, right? How many people in Canada for this? So they don't know it yet. The LTC, it's the same thing. It's not till you go through it. Like you, but my mom was schizophrenic. So it's like all my life, I was taking care and whatnot. And then she ended up going into an LTC later. So I went through that whole stage of life until I was 30.
Oh,
Right. So I see that. Yeah. And what you're talking about, studying and changing midway, you and my Beaver sweetie should talk too, because he was doing a mechanical engineering thing. And then 2 years later says like, all of this sucks. There's nothing good here. Why would I spend 4 years analyzing this, which is nothing? Let's just create a new way. And then all of a sudden, whoops, he's in chemical engineering and he's got nobody in his department that can help him bounce. You two need to talk, because he's still a little bitter about that. It's like, you're a good example that, you know what, it's like you can get somewhere after having gone through that. So he's
a little more work. It extends the length a little bit, but patience pays off in the end. You just gotta
exactly.
Well,
No.
in his
He's
case,
still
in his
new, right?
case,
He's
it's
still
really
3 or
paid
4
off.
years. Yes, in his
It's
case,
really
it's really
paid off because what has he developed and
Uh,
should soon have a patent for?
well, I don't want to make the show about this, but he found a way to recycle the lithium out of electric car batteries with very little waste at all. So yeah, waiting for a patent on that. But he started out, he was going to do a life cycle analysis on recycling processes. And it's like, well, all these processes suck. Let's just invent a new process. Well, that's completely different science all of a sudden, right? And a different PhD. So yeah, when you're talking, I was smiling and I almost had tears in my eyes because I know exactly what this is. Because it's a rough period too. Because you're aimless for a while as you're trying to like put all the pieces together to start over, and you have to go sort them in different places.
Yeah.
Right? It's not in your home department anymore. So it's double work because, like you said, it's like you've got to do the studies, but then you're basically your own research director now at this point.
Yeah.
As well. So it's kind of tough.
Something you had said a moment ago, though, I wanted to address when it comes to ERs and issues with ER shuttering and hallway healthcare and et cetera, et cetera. My father had a scare about a year and a half ago. And he was in the hallway for about 6 hours, which is considered a short-term wait these days before they were able to get him a bed in the hospital in the ER. He was only in there for 6 hours. There's some people who have spent 24 hours. And Doug campaigned on ending hallway medicine.
No.
He's done nothing to do that.
No, it's worse. It's worse.
And you know, when you have military, army medics who come out of long-term care homes with PTSD from what they've witnessed. These are people who are trained for battlefield scenarios.
My students just read those reports yesterday. I have them read it for my long-term care course, the military reports. They're reading it all and they're doing an assignment on it right now. So yes, that was yesterday's class. So, I'm never going to let my students forget what happened. No way.
We have to remind people.
Yeah.
And the thing that troubles me, and I've been saying this since day one, Doug Ford and his iron ring, the iron ring is around the goddamn shareholders. And that's it.
Bill 218, it protected them and shielded them from liability, right? And we were like, what? But like, what?
Yeah.
This is who you're protecting? What? And I said, doing that is just further endangering these people, the workers and the residents, because you're literally just giving the owners the green light to just negligence is okay, go nuts, have fun. And the amount of preventable death that would ensue. I mean, I will never forgive any of them for it. I will never forgive them. The families who would contact me, if not daily, people who I've never met, would just reach out to me being like, oh my gosh, my loved one's in a long-term care home. And just the way I'm like, I got to talk to you. Let's talk. And I'd sit there and they would just cry to me for like an hour. And then I start crying. We're all crying. I'm like, I it was the worst experience of my life, listening to all these poor people go through the worst experience of their life and trying to help get supports and to help prevent what I'm hearing day in and day out, the grief and the trauma in these people's voices, just trying to prevent that for other people. And it's just like, I will never forget Fullerton. Just that smug look on her face all the time.
Yes.
Oh, we're doing everything. We're doing everything. And meanwhile, then the Long-Term Care Commission is, she testified. Her transcript comes up. Of course, I'm looking over that like it was my dissertation, and it was just one admission over another about how bad they knew it was. She was monitoring what was happening in Italy. And this is also something I teach my students about. You knew that this was happening. You knew what was to come, and you knew as a doctor what made it even worse. She's a medical doctor, and understands more than most people how dangerous this virus would be for this group that she's supposed to oversee. And just went, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. What? Like over 5,000 people died in Ontario alone in these homes, often preventable deaths.
That
5,000. And then
I know somebody might get upset at me for the term I'm about to use, but that could be considered a mini Holocaust.
I literally had a student email me last night because one of the things I'm doing, I'm having them write like a pseudo opinion editorial. Like I want them, like write a passion piece, like pretend you're writing an article after reading these reports to like the Toronto Star or something. And her title was, this is literally the modern Holocaust. She said that. And I said, you say that, and I think about how families would often say to me, "This is a genocide," and that was a term. Even at that point, I was like, "Whoa!" I didn't even hear that term before. I should have, but I hadn't. I was more, caregiving expert, not a seniors expert, even though I was very close to my grandparents my whole life. But now I've become more of a seniors of an older adult. I've ventured. We start becoming experts in different areas. Sometimes through these experiences, random public advocacy. Or through our own, education, whatever it may be. But yeah, the genocide. And I said, well, I've heard that. I heard genocide often by my families. They used to call Fullerton the minister of genocide, death, all these things. I heard it all of it. Yeah, it was awful.
Yeah, it's absolutely horrible. It's like a complete lack of humanity there.
Well, that's what I mean, right?
It was a balance sheet, dollars and cents.
They were acceptable losses to this government. Bottom line.
Exactly. I guess that's an attitude we saw in the United States too, right? I guess I remember I think there was a senator that said, I'm sure that there's a lot of older people that would just be willing to die in order to ensure that the economy keeps rolling we are getting so close to eugenics right now.
Yes.
The level of ageism that we saw during COVID was out of control. And I remember there's one guy, what's his name? I'm sure you remember. He's got like orange hair, and he's like one of those far right influencers on Canadian Twitter. What's his name? He parades himself as a journalist now. He always goes after people.
Crybaby
Caillou. What I mean, right? There's one of these guys.
Crybaby Caillou. Kian.
Yeah. He came after me once because he said something so ageist along those lines. Like, so what if it's just some seniors getting? It was something along those lines. It was that typical argument, and I was like, "You're disgusting!" Like, these are people's grandparents' mothers. What is wrong with you? Like, and he's like, it's some liberal left wing, blah blah blah. And then I'm like, just off. Like, I can't with people like this. When you have that kind of mentality that, it's just some seniors. Like, again, that's the black or white. You're on this side, I'm on this side. We're not going to be friends if that's how you look at people. Like, some people can die as long as I can go to the bar.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you?
We're talking about fellow human beings, and in this case, fellow citizens.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't.
Fellow citizens, people with whom we share the country.
And citizens who built this country.
And you're like, so what? I want to go hang out and forget lockdowns. And
it's the selfishness of that right-wing minded individuals who are like, it hasn't happened to me, so I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Whereas sort of the left-leaning people are going, it should never happen to anybody.
No, nobody.
No.
Suffering is suffering.
So
it's okay. Some suffer. Cool.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, what we saw that just in a tweet that Donald Trump said, like this, about the tariffs. It's like, there would be a price to pay, but it will all be worth it in the end. It's like, you realize that the people who voted for him, are the price to pay, right? It's your costs going up. Like, it's you. He's talking about you when he says the price to pay. And I'm
intelligent, but these people are not bright people.
No,
it's like you're just ignorant and hate-filled, and you're looking for somebody to blame. You're looking for a target. And it's like, what was that? I saw a quick, who is it? The Sean O'Shea, who I love. He retweeted Jon Stewart yesterday was talking about, this. He did, I guess, his daily, whatever his show is, and he said, like, we're the Labradoodle neighbor. And he's like, this is, you walk up to someone for no reason, you just pick a fight with them. It's like, does that make you feel like a big man? Like, you feel good? Like, just feeling like you can bully someone? Like, it's these kind of people that should never be drawn into power, yet they're the ones that seek power. And it's funny because I have a friend who does this research, Brian Class, and I know
who he is. He's amazing.
He's written several books, Corruptible. He does a lot about Trump while Trump was in his first presidency, and he has in his book Corruptible, he's like, like, these are the people that are drawn to power. The worst people who shouldn't be drawn to power are the ones drawn to power, and this is how we end up in these situations. A lot of these people are psychopaths, and it's just. But it's like, what do you do? And I saw someone at the very, very beginning in the comments saying, would she run for public office? And I'm like, what? It's like, this is why I don't, because I see stuff like this. And I just think, you don't want to hear me swear in the legislature, because I wouldn't be able to control myself if I heard that kind of rhetoric, because it's so obnoxious and awful. And I have those moments where I'm like, how can you, I just, like, maybe it needs a certain kind of person who can, register their emotions or not have emotion, but at the same time, those are the people you need that care about stuff. But it's a catch-22. We don't want to go into it because we don't want to be surrounded by people who clearly are missing that gene.
Right.
Yet
It's the
You're
difference.
wearing the correct color today, ma'am, if I may say. The
Yes,
correct
blue.
color.
Oh,
Blue
God.
jacket?
Well, blue for
Yeah.
Democrats, not
Well,
conservatives.
no. I mean, during the whole occupation of Ottawa, that was what my I became a target for yelling at them in the streets of the downtown Ottawa because it happened just down the street from my house, on my street. So I went out and yelled at them. So now it's like, if you wear the blue, it's because you're fighting for those who don't have a voice.
Yeah.
And I know you've been fighting for those without a voice for a long time, which is one of the big reasons we wanted to get you on the show to have a chat with you.
No, that's okay. No. This is okay. This is all good stuff. No. But I wanted to, no, this is all good stuff because it's all context and it matters.
Yes.
What's going on right now here in Ontario, because things have changed almost overnight, because we were having an election that was going to be about tariffs. And, Doug Ford sitting across the table negotiating with Donald Trump, which will never happen because premiers don't sit across the table for presidents of the United States. So the whole premise for the election is a lie to start with. And he's shown us by ripping up the Starlink contract for a total of about 6 hours
5 minutes.
and removing everything from the LCBO that he can take action without a new mandate. I mean, the LCBO is the largest purchaser of alcohol in the world. So if he's able to affect that contract while in caretaker mode.
Not long ago, remember, how easy it is for you to pull that up when it serves you. Meanwhile, you literally just tried to privatize it. You successfully limited their power and reduced the power of the LCBO, which is so important for us. And this was a key example to illustrate to people how important these public institutions are. Because you think the private sector, when you privatize it out, is going to be like, sure, okay, let's step up and get these private people who pay us angry. Like, come on,
right?
You need the public sector,
right?
Yes,
and that hit, and the hit we could have given would have been bigger had he not done that bit, right? Because they would have had even bigger purchasing power. 100%. But with the tariffs now being delayed for 30 days, so the sword is still over the head, and we're kind of learning, don't make offers until there's an actual ask. There's no reason for Doug Ford to be campaigning about what he's going to do next for Trump, because there's going to be no ask until the election is over. So now we finally do get to talk about healthcare and our elders and all the other things that he was not planning to talk about because the election was going to be about something else. So all of a sudden there's an opportunity now for Merritt Stiles and Bonnie Crombie and Mike Schreiner to come up. Because I know that Bonnie Crombie has been making health a big focus. She's basically hammering on that.
That's very effective.
Very effective.
I mean, sends a message.
So I think it was 11,000 people died on wait lists waiting for surgeries or something like that. Or something.
2 million or don't have a family doctor. It's like, that's the one I saw yesterday. I'm like, whoa.
Well, and Mike Schreiner has gone on record saying we need to double ODSP right now.
I mean, that's obvious. Yeah.
Right.
That's been a problem forever.
A long time.
Yeah. So with the table clearing up all of a sudden, I mean, he's going to try to flood the zone with terrorists, but there's going to be nothing to respond to until the election's over. There's going to be nothing new to respond to. So where's the opening on what you've seen? Where is he weakest? Where can he be attacked? That type of stuff. Or where can the opposition parties position themselves? Because I'm getting the sense by seeing certain polling numbers that Ontarians, like I was watching for the preferreds premiers, Mike Schreiner actually has the best, right? And then Merritt Stiles was at -2, Bonnie Crombie's at -9, and Doug Ford's at -27 in terms of the favorables. So people don't like him, but yet the party's ahead. And what we just saw with the federal liberals is the Conservatives were ahead. Trudeau decided to leave. Mark Carney came. People are saying, wow,
quick, eh?
Yes, we might have a responsible adult. And we're saying, okay, wait a minute. It wasn't a thirst to get away from DEI or all that type of stuff necessarily, but maybe have a bit more focus on the economy, but maybe just an adult in the room that wasn't Trudeau. So if in Ontario it's having an adult in the room, that's not Doug Ford only, right? And now there's an opening, and now the mask has fallen, because we've seen that whatever he was saying with regard to Starlink, he flip-flopped. Whatever he was going to say about
that. He got a lot of heat. Right, he should, and he still should get heat, because that is ludicrous that you're keeping any role of that man who's the clear right hand to our biggest enemy right now, what are you doing?
Well, exactly.
What are you doing? You're going to give this part of our infrastructure? What are you doing?
Exactly. So, and then you add to that the moment on top now with the hot mic that he was like, there's no more fake leak. Like he's back at the same spot with the green belt, right? Where we had the video with him talking to his supporters. I'm going to put my hands all over that. And then he came to us and says, no, I am not going to touch that. I know you saw the video. I'm not going to touch that, I guess. And then all of a sudden he's still trying to do it. We found out, I guess. So this is going to be, there's no reason to believe that this is not the same thing here. All the things that he promises he's going to do as soon as the election's over when he wins, we know what a Doug Ford promise is worth. So where's the angle? What do you see?
I mean, obviously for me, I always focus on what happened in long-term care because that's just an indication of who this person is, what this government is about, and what they did in long-term care is just starting to trickle over to hospitals. So that's like the things. Long-term care has become overwhelmingly privatized out, right? Like now he's starting to push the hospital care. Like you all don't, and I keep saying, do you really want what happened in long-term care to happen in hospitals? Because that's where it's headed. Like the agency started in long-term care, and now they're starting to overrun the hospitals. We're spending billions of our money on these private agencies. And this is one of those things I've been trying to warn people about, particularly reporters, to do deep dives, because I don't think anyone's actually monitoring how many of these agencies just spread it up during COVID. And I've actually started to track a couple because there have been fake nurses arrested in long-term care that have been sent there by these agencies who randomly just sprouted up during the pandemic by lone individuals who have no expertise in this area. And it's like, how did you just suddenly create an agency? And are you even vetting your worker? You're just sending people into the most vulnerable setting. And nobody was paying attention to this until people started to look at how much we were spending. And now I'm like, journalists, I still don't understand why there isn't a massive, like, explosive investigation like that hasn't already come out about all of these agencies. Who's monitoring them? Who owns them? Why are we don't have any caps on how much these agencies, there's no legislation that says you cannot charge, only beyond this amount. This is why they're gouging our system, and the government knows this, and they're just letting it happen. Yes. And it's not that, like, and it's never okay, but if you're sending top-notch, super skilled workers there, maybe in some world you could justify, undercutting the existing workforce who has the same credentials and has been in-house forever. You can't, but you know what I mean? I'm just Right. We're sending fake workers who have no expertise. And I've counted at least 3 nurses in the last year in long-term care who have been arrested by police. And you very rarely hear about these stories. When I hear them, I
haven't heard of it at all.
All out on Twitter. 3. 1 in Durham, 1 in Hamilton. I've given, interviews about the Hamilton one. And then there was one recently in Simcoe County. And they've been like, no expertise, and they're giving people meds, they're giving people needles, like they could kill people. And you're like, this is the most dangerous role to be faking, like a doctor and a nurse. And you don't, and I kept looking at the Ministry of Long-Term Care, waiting, when are you guys going to talk about this? Like, how many more fake nurses are in long-term care right now? How many more? And then, and what really bothers me, this happened just recently, December 1st, the most damaging regulation change that they have ever done, because I guess they're getting annoyed with us having to point out that you have fake, workers with no credentials. Like, we're just going to take away credentials altogether.
Yes.
So now they literally passed the most damaging regulation to date. And this largely flew under the radar. I was trying so hard to get it out there publicly. A couple people did reports, but largely this has been quiet. Most people don't even know this happened, like, almost 2 months ago. Where now, and I'd sent you you should pull up that table, where you can literally hire anyone, no training, no credentials, and they've created this term called resident support personnel. And it's funny, and it's not funny. I mean, but when you can predict these people's behavior. Yes, in the very beginning of the pandemic, Fullerton created a category called resident care aides, RCAs. And as soon as she did that, it's effectively what this group is. They renamed it to try to, divert attention. And I said right away, and I'm documented in news reports saying, you need to be careful. The for-profit lobby has been wanting this for a long time. She said, it's just a stopgap measure because all the workers are getting sick, which they were because you weren't providing them proper infection prevention and control and PPE. that aside, I said, like, this is the for-profit lobby speaking. They've wanted a way to further exploit the workforce. They say it's temporary. It's not. Mark my words. I'm on the record saying that in November 2020, saying, mark my words, this is going to become permanent. This is what they've wanted. They found they're in. And then all of a sudden, fast forward almost 5 years, now it's permanent. And they renamed it so they think that we're not paying attention and it's something different. And the worst part, and people don't know this, you should be paying attention if you have anyone entering long-term care soon, it's going to get worse. In that chart that I put up there, they have two little caveats. Well, the first part I think was hilarious because they said, we're giving these providers, majority for-profit owners of these long-term care homes, they can use their discretion to hire who they want, because we've seen their discretion is bang on to date, right? Like, great. But then there's a small part there, and I really pointed this out, that it says they're going to start giving the seniors in these facilities, not just seniors, but overwhelmingly seniors, the power to choose which kind of worker they want to care for them. So you're going to give people overwhelmingly with dementia, you're going to say to them, hey, do you mind if this person cares for you versus the nurse? And if you're only hiring all of a sudden, which is going to happen, this is where you see where it's going, right? These resident support personnel with zero expertise. What's the person going to say? Give me whoever's nearby. Yes. And now I just know where this is going. We're going to have so much more preventable death and injury. And because the fact you have the audacity to say, we're going to give these seniors, vast majority, massively vulnerable, vast majority with some sort of cognitive impairment, we're apparently going to give them the right to choose which class of worker they want. Are they even going to? If you would ask my grandma, she'd have no idea what you were talking about. What's the difference between this person and that? I don't know. My grandma wouldn't know, and she didn't even have dementia. But yeah, that's a smart move. That's a smart move. I mean, it is so beyond the pale. Like, it makes me feel physically sick. And the fact that this flew largely under the radar, and this is now in effect, and most people aren't even talking about it. And it's like, you have literally passed one of the most dangerous regulations, and I don't even want to know how bad that, in combination with the agencies that are coming in here and sending fake workers that we're seeing, how much more endangered our residents are now. Right now, we learned nothing from what happened during COVID. They are more at risk right now than ever before. And when people say, I remember somebody, I wanted me to, I did an interview for the 4th year anniversary of COVID. Now we're at the 5th year. Being like, well, do you think long-term care is in better shape? I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, no. We're in worse shape than ever before. And most people don't realize that's because I understand the media has a million things to look at, and it's not in focus anymore because thankfully vaccines limited the amount of deaths. We weren't losing seniors by the hour because vaccines work.
Yes. And
nowhere did I see how effective vaccines were than in long-term care. If you were paying attention to long-term care at that time, you were literally, if you believe in God, you were doing the crosses every day when that vaccine came out. Be like, oh my God, thank God. Because literally the spike, the chart, if you look at the chart, it's like literally deaths, done. And it was like, you think that seniors stopped dying because suddenly these places were like, okay, yeah, we learned we're going to do better after the first and second wave. No,
right.
It was the vaccines. They were still getting COVID all the time, which is still not safe for them, but they weren't dying. And then because of that, the media focus kind of shifted, which was awful, but this is how it works. Right.
Right.
And unfortunately, I don't think a lot of people realize the things that have been happening, especially over the past year in long-term care, and just how much worse it actually is.
Please tell us.
Well, I mean, because you had mentioned the military reports, remember, I'll never forget, this was one of those moments where I actually thought for a moment he might have a soul. When by the way, I don't think a lot of people realize this, because I taught my students this. The military reports, they were not willingly put out there. Did you know that the paramedics leaked it? Not the paramedics, sorry. The paramedics, I think about it because I think of another home, St. George, where they did leak that there. But the military, they had sent their report to the feds within weeks, and the feds were just sitting on it. And they were like, you have to do something with this. So they got so angry, someone in the military sent it to a reporter. And then the reporter went to Trudeau and was like, or the minister of seniors at that point, being like,
we have a problem.
And then within hours, they started planning for those pressers, 2 back to back. Trudeau came out in the morning and then
Right.
in the afternoon. And they
Right.
both, they both looked so distraught. I mean, how could you not after reading that report? But I remember Ford being like, because he's the one to look at what happened in Ontario. Those military reports were from Ontario, right? So, and he's like, that's it. We're going to go after these people, criminal charges. We're going to do better. We're going to reinstate the inspections and the unannounced RQIs that they cut when they took power, by the way. And we're going to do this. And we're going to, and I actually, he looked really upset. And I thought, oh my God, maybe finally someone is going to do something. Maybe. And since then, it has been progressive lie after lie. They have not reinstated the mandatory unannounced inspections at every home. So the difference is what they did when they took power. They said, okay, we're going to get rid of these pesky unannounced resident quality inspections where literally inspectors would just show up at a home, no warning. And that was the important part, and look at the entire facility. So in that way, you get at a lot more of a realistic depiction of what's happening without being warned. And they moved it to critical incident inspections. Those are where somebody actually actively complains or there's an active injury and like a family alerts the ministry. So then they send someone. But the inspectors warn the home when they're coming. So then I hear from staff who whistleblow to me all the time. They're like, we know when they're coming. We put on like our best face. We have all we staff up. We get ready, make everything look good. And then it still doesn't happen. It still doesn't work because we still have these horrific inspection reports that come out. They show like glaring abuse and neglect and just widespread failure. And you're like, and this was with advance warning. And you knew, and you went out of your way to make your home look good.
And it still failed.
It's like the guests are coming. I don't have time to get rid of the dust. So I'm changing all the 100 light bulbs to 50-watt light bulbs. So because if you don't have light, you can't see the dust. No, it's still there.
I know. So those are not back. He had promised. We heard criminal, charges. Not one home has been charged. They charged a farm. They charged a farm where one worker died. And yes, they should have. They should charge all these people. We had thousands die in long-term care. Not one charge for failing to provide the basic necessaries of life. That's a criminal code charge.
Right.
Really did. Not one charge. Not one charge.
Or depraved indifference or gross negligence or.
And even if, let's say, you're not going to charge them with criminal charges, but take their license away. You've demonstrated that you cannot take care of these people, and you're not even following the long-term care legislation in place. Take it away. What is he doing? They're rewarding backed actors. Orchard Villa, one of the worst outbreaks, if not the worst. You think of the worst, Tender Care, Roberta Place, Orchard Villa. We're talking upwards of 100 people died in like a very short period. This was like wave 2. It was horrific. And they just gave them a massive expansion and another like 25 or 30-year contract to keep going and to just further develop their stronghold in the sector. And so now the Ontario Health Coalition is actually taking them to court about it because they're like, hold on, basic morality aside, you have legislation that says if you are demonstrated to fail at your job and following all these things, then you should not be in this industry. You should not be renewed or given another extension. And yet all of these places have just been given extensions because they're so obsessed with their bed quotas. They don't want to do the extra work to go, okay, maybe now we should start investing in municipalities and the regions and give them money to develop these homes. Because we know from the data, the public homes are by and far the best. The for-profit homes had the worst outcomes, the most cases, deaths, no question about it. And then the best were the municipal homes owned by like the Toronto homes, the regional homes. And they're the ones, by the way, that don't close down because they're not getting a profit. Do you know how many homes are actually closing down? We've had, I think, 6 in the last couple of years. So here's how it works. Then they get like a 25, 30-year contract. And in the legislation, it says, okay, well, you have to make all these upgrades to make your home safe, but we'll give you the whole rest of your license time period. So a lot of these homes are coming up due at different times, right? So a lot of them were about 5,000 beds were coming up due over the past like year and a half. And we also had a push to get rid of those homes. We need to get other better providers in here, largely the municipalities, to take more public care on. And so we know we've lost a ton of beds because some of them, these big for-profit ones, are coming up to their end of the road. And they're like, do we want to actually invest the money to make these places safer? They're closing down. And now they're literally displacing all of these seniors in their homes. And now I'm hearing from these families in retirement homes are starting to do it too. And it's like, we lose at every level. They provide inferior care. We have vastly greater deaths, abuse, negligence during the pandemic. We had evidence before that too.
Oh yes, absolutely.
But then you can't rely on them, because if they suddenly wake up one day at the end of their term and go, we're not making enough money on these seniors, they can close up shop, and then they own that land, and then we are
Yep.
Well, you can swear on this show, don't we?
You can swear on this show.
We have to buy it. We can't buy it. They just, it's so much. They're going to charge whatever they want for us to buy back. Why are we putting, and we're paying them every month when they get money per bed. So you're literally paying them to buy up real estate investments on prime land all across Ontario, to then presumably at one point, they don't even have like a contract that says you have to make sure you stay in this industry ad infinitum, so you don't displace these people. And there's not even like a rule there. They can just say, we don't want to do this anymore. It's not worth the headache. It's not worth the Dr. Vivian's coming after us. It's not worth, having accountability. That's annoying,
Welcome to the new feudal system.
It's horrific. Like we are losing in so many ways. They're providing inferior care. They're closing down, displacing these seniors who now, where are they going to go? And these families, they're like, what? Now we have to find a home, but there's wait lists for years. Like, what are they? Because you have literally put your money in people that have demonstrated that their main fiduciary responsibility is creating profit and accounting for their shareholders' growth. It's not about what the best thing is for these workers or what the best thing is for these residents. And
it's all about profit.
It's clear as day.
Yeah.
And you are just fueling the system. And yes, I saw someone in the chat say Mike Harris. Yeah, it was him that was the first to give $1 billion, I believe, to long-term care in the 90s when he was in power. And he gave it to the for-profit providers. And that was the spark that triggered the dominance of the for-profit model in Ontario. And
I remember watching those buildings pop up. And because of my former line of work, I worked in telecom. So I wired a lot of those buildings. And I remember thinking to myself, this is not good.
No, it's not good.
This is for profit. What happens in 30 years from now when all of the residents are dead? Then what? You have all this real estate. What are they going to use it for? Are they going to use it for...
into a condo. One of them's turning it into a condo.
Bingo. They're not going to use it to house the homeless.
No. It's bad.
It's got to be a for-profit thing. And one of the other things that I wanted to bring up in this topic of conversation, because it rolls right along with Doug Ford's mantra, he wants to close all the safe consumption sites because he calls them drug dens, which we know will send people to alleys where they'll die instead of getting safe treatment or what.
And the health minister says nobody will die.
Yeah,
Again,
bullshit.
the lack of empathy, right?
Absolute bullshit. And what is it Cassie Lake said to us? One of our kits in the Dam fam said, how long before we see Weston family recovery centers?
Oh yeah, all of it.
For profit that we will pay for.
Yeah. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
How long before that happens? You know it's going to happen because he's already privatizing healthcare through the Weston family.
Shoppers became a main conduit for pandemic stuff during what?
Yeah,
that
they're
was
the
all
distributors.
under him. All of a sudden, now we go get your vaccines there. Forget doctors; they can prescribe stuff to you there. Like what? What are we doing? We're turning shoppers into doctors' offices, and then there's all those stories that came out that they were overbilling and doing. What do you expect is going to happen? Do you not have enough evidence on how the for-profit industry works to know it doesn't work in healthcare? What
Just
are you
look south of the border.
What are you doing? No, this is always antithetical to proper care, and they always operate less financially, what's the word, responsibly, or people say, and I had this debate once. I did a debate on the agenda about for-profit versus not-for-profit, and it's like, the myth is that they have deeper pockets so they can provide better facilities.
Bullshit.
Go look at their facilities. They're the dilapidated facilities that have all these ward rooms, and that's why people were dying so much, because they didn't want to bother giving people private rooms because you'd have to upgrade them, and that's part of the building upgrades that are due.
Exactly.
You have to build more private rooms, and there's like, we don't want to do the work. It's a lot of work. It's taking over profits. So we're just going to close these homes.
Yeah, and by structuring it like you did over the whole entire life of the contract. Well, so I got a 30-year contract. Well, I'll schedule it in year 28 if I feel like it.
Keep kicking. And the worst part is, and I said this in the agenda debate, I go, everyone, not just the for-profits, but all the entire long-term care providers were given capital development funds, capital development funds 4 different times over the last decade to indeed, so they even gave them money to upgrade their homes. And isn't it interesting that it's a lot of the for-profit homes that just didn't bother? Where'd that money go? Where did the money go?
No follow-up, no evaluation, no tracking?
No. How much money?
Shareholders' pockets.
But here's the thing. See, here's what bothers me, right, about this stuff. How do you design in 2025 or 2024, 2021, or whatever they designed it, with everything that we know after all these years of public service all around the world and all of best practices? How do you design a contract without a monitoring and evaluation? And how is that not a criminal act on its own? How?
And then you wonder why people why do for-profits get into long-term care? It's like, wait, like, you think they get in there because they love seniors? Like, because it's profitable. And I love when people try to say, "Oh,
should not be laughing.
Profitable. We're not. It's not profitable. Why are you in there?
Yeah.
Why are you in there? Give me a break. It's a cash cow, and they know it, and they get steady funding to buy up all these real estate investments. And Ford is just literally throwing money at them, throwing money, and then at the same time, taking away regulations, taking away safeguards, cutting red tape. Whenever you hear that, by the way, there's terms we learn in political economy, right?
Yep.
Cutting red tape, modernization is code for privatization. We all know this in academia, right? In the literature.
Right.
There are certain keywords, and it's all the buzzwords that Ford uses as like a good thing when he's talking to people. It's like, we know what you're saying. Just say privatization, because that's what you're doing. Modernization is code 99% of the time for privatization. And we know
or reducing consumer protections, which is cutting red tape.
Well, it's part of it, right? Because keep in mind, it's the for-profit lobby that gets in, donates to these people. Remember, HuffPost, people Google it. They did a report early on in the pandemic that, like, I think it was like 4 or 5 of Ford's staffers then left his office to go become like full-time lobbyists for-profit lobby. What? Like,
there used to be a 5-year period. Wasn't there at one point?
Connections are there. I mean, it's all there. And I remember I did an interview once with a couple. I think it was like 640 AM 640. It was one of those radio shows. Mm-hmm. And one of them, and she left, and now she was working closely with Trudeau. What's her name? She was great. Either way, she had left, and she had said, I was a lobbyist, so I know that what these governments do is what they're told to do from the lobbies. And the most powerful lobby in long-term care is the for-profit lobby. No question about it. Where they donate, go look at the money. It's all there. There's a trail. I don't even get me going on the associations they're giving money to over the unions. Associations, which, you see the photos of the president of the association at barbecues with Ford. And do you remember OPSWA? So there was a whole controversy where they had this TikTok channel. They hired this TikTok ambassador, and they were pretty much making fun of these seniors on their TikTok. Ooh. So someone sent it to me, and I, like, imagine the cartoon where steam goes out of your head. That was me. And I was like, oh no. So, I did what I do, and I started my tweeting, and then it was all over the news. And right away. And I always try to give people, this is the thing about me, people don't realize, I always give people a chance to do the right thing. Always. Right. I reached out to the woman, the president. I'm like, hey, listen, like, you realize how bad this is, right? Like, immediately blocked me. She had her association block me. Then they took down their Twitter when we started. And then, like, oh yeah, Rivera also took down their Twitter at this point. Like, and people would be like, yeah, you made them take it down because they don't want all the heat that they were getting, right? Which is, that.
Wow.
Yeah, oh yeah. So
I've never made anybody take down their Twitter. Jeez.
Oh yeah. I'll never forget when it was one of the reporters came to me and they're like, oh my God, because I was putting heat at one point on Rivera. And all of a sudden their Twitter account just disappeared. And we're like, and the journalists were like, oh my gosh. And then, like, we want your comment on this, because that in and of itself was a story. They were getting all this heat, and I was part of them getting all the heat. And then all of a sudden disappeared. I'm like, oh, because you don't want the accountability. Oh, look at your little munchkin. He's a big munchkin, but he's so cute. That's all I can focus on now, the little cuteness.
That's Lola.
Big cuteness.
You
But
gotta give her a camera appearance every day because she just loves the attention.
very cute, very cute.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got distracted. I don't even know where I was going because I got so distracted.
Sorry. That's
No,
my fault.
it's fine. It's adorable. But yeah, bottom line, things are worse. they are enriching these for-profit providers that have a clear relationship with inferior care and increased infections and deaths, and not even just for COVID, but even before. There, long-term care has had a history of like having trouble managing infection prevention and control.
Right.
So I also am teaching my students about right now. So it's not like we didn't have an indication that this sector was already vulnerable, and which, Fullerton would have known about as well. But then you knew you had this organization, this for-profit lobby with all this power, and then these people like the OPSWA organizations who now Florida's giving like millions to. Gave them, last time I checked, he gave them $1 million to do an advertising to get more PSWs for a private association. And I hear from a lot of people who've left that association. They're like, you do not want to be involved with this association. And based on how they reacted to being called out, and then you're like, oh, this is not good. Like, I remember the next morning, because they got a lot of heat, and these screenshots, GIFs, videos, we did a bunch of stories on it, and they were being shared quite, widely. And the next morning, after they blocked me and all this stuff, and we're just blocking everyone that was like ripping into them, then the woman who was the one doing these TikToks that was effectively mocking these poor, residents, came out and did a follow-up Instagram live video, I believe, and was like, oh, so the president, Miranda Ferrier, reached out to me and said, and we have the recording, it's there, reached out and said, oh, there's this woman on Twitter, saying that you're being mean, and do they not know who we are? It was like mocking me. It was like, I'm trying to point out that you are contributing to a very dehumanizing, ageist, and dangerous rhetoric, and you are an association purported to represent PSWs, and PSWs are not like this, but this is a problem at the top. And this is your response, is to double down. So when I see those kind of behavioral responses, it's like the Trumps of the world, right? Like, if you as a human being can't acknowledge when you're wrong and you did something bad and you double down, that is the biggest red flag as a human being. But furthermore, you are getting money from so that happened. All this stuff happened. We never got a formal apology. And then the federal government has proceeded to give them $1 million+ in funds to do these campaigns. What? What?
Oh my God.
What are we doing here? What are we doing? It's a joke. It's a circus. And these are people's lives. And,
And one of the reasons we have this show is because we realize people are busy and they can't watch the 6 o'clock news, and they don't necessarily have time to read a newspaper. But us, you can watch live on your phone wherever you are, or at any time. That's the beauty of YouTube. But we have a show to inform people, to stop the propaganda, to stop the misinformation, the disinformation, call out liars for the liars they are, call out the corruption. That's why we have a show. And if we don't do this, there will be a lot of people who don't know anything about it. And then we do this, we call it out, we point it out, we show you who the liars are. And then, of course, the bot and trolls come in and try and change everything we just said and say that's a lie. But no. We have the facts on our side. History will smile upon us because we're on the right side of history on this. Yeah,
there's a right side and there's a wrong side. There really is. And it's like, it was funny because when you announced that I was going to be on your show, I literally had someone put me on a list of like crazy woke liberals. I'm like, what the hell? I was laughing. Like, oh, okay, cool. Like, when people like, they're saying, I'm like, she's a liberal plant. It's like, what? I didn't even vote liberal in the last election. What are you talking about? Like, you don't even know anything about me or my politics.
But that's
I'm just liberal as a catch-all for apparently anyone that seems
who cares about human beings.
The way it's being used by these people who are making these lists and like, come on, what's going on here? Is this, there's no civility anymore. We're at the end of civility. There's no decorum, and this is what we need to bring back. I mean, like, what I'm seeing, everything is just, it's like a free fall into chaos. And of course it's coming from Trump, and the way people see how the way they talk, and then it just gets imported here. Right.
It's a permission structure.
It's not good. It's not good.
I get called a liberal cuck soy boy all the time. And
did you see Kim Walsh? This is what I was thinking about yesterday.
Yeah. My response to that is, I'm allergic to soy. Give me a ribeye rare with a pint of Guinness and a double Crown Royal neat, please and thank you. And oh, by the way, go fuck yourself. I just,
I was like, how this our reality? Like, I have those moments where I say this to myself, like, how did we wake up in this reality? It's like, it's just the worst timeline to be in, right? And
it is.
It's so awful. And it's bad because it's like, it's all bad. But then you want people to come up, and do these podcasts and try to show that, no, this is not how most people think and behave. But then you get a lot of people are kind of scared off of becoming public, because then, the public attacks, especially against scientists, and forget the states, our scientists who literally got us out of this pandemic are literally facing death threats, like legitimate death threats because of Trump. You think people are going to be like, oh yeah, we're going to go public now because we have these maniacs who have literally been like sent to effectively hurt us. You don't think that rhetoric? Of course, the first step of dehumanizing a population is that this is what they're doing. It's right out of the playbook, right? You start talking to them like they don't matter. They're second-class citizens. And then it further by engenders violence against that population. And we're just waiting for, I pray to God that man will be okay, Fauci, but I'm worried, man, about these people and what might happen to them because of this rhetoric, this all of a sudden anti-science rhetoric. And like, these people are the enemies. They're the ones that literally got us out of this pandemic. What are you talking about? And we're still in it, but I mean,
and then the flippant, oh, he can pay for his own security. He shouldn't have to. That's the whole point.
This mechanism and this discourse to vilify people, effectively to vilify academia and to vilify, the intelligence community almost, right? Because they want people to be able to be easier radicalized. And the lower levels of education, it just makes it easier, right? If you don't know where to go for the information, and then you attack the free, the modern, the news, reliable news, and that's why you start to see all of a sudden, when did we start having this rhetoric that CBC was bad? CBC is fantastic. Yes. What are you talking about? And then, but this is a sheer created discourse. People need to stop. And like, we study discourse analysis, and this is very Foucault analysis. If any of you want to study Michel Foucault, or just even read stuff, the most brilliant French academics. He died, but he brilliant. And they looked at this stuff, right? Like, you deliberately create a discourse, you create a narrative, and then now, because of social media, it spreads like we haven't seen it spread before. And then when you have people who own the means, right, the message is the medium, the message, all that, it can be true. Then this is what becomes people's reality. And you start taking away the areas where they can get credible knowledge. And all you're left with is the disinformation agents that are just winning right now. They're winning, and it's horrifying. And I don't know what we do to get out of this awful hole we are all being sucked into.
Well,
so this is actually Thanos
collecting this last Infinity Stone. And for those of you listening to the audio only version, it's a Michael D. Adder cartoon, political cartoon of Elon Musk wearing the Infinity glove, and his last Infinity Stone is Twitter.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm almost a little sad that you said you don't know what to do, because my next question was, appealing to you as a sociologist, because we've been noticing on the show that there seems to be a particular effort to target men 45 and under. We are losing them quickest down that slip and slide. Yes, and I'm just wondering, like, if not for the men themselves who are being preyed upon, but maybe for those who love them and whatnot, like, or for both of us, like, is there anything that we should be looking out for when we see people start going down? Sometimes it gets too late, but when we start seeing them going down, is there ways to pull them back? Like
education. I mean, like, I'll never forget, I had a student when we finally had to go back to in person. So probably like 2021, and he came up to me after class one day, and I was talking about vaccines and the rise of, misinformation and disinformation and increases in vaccine hesitancy, and how this is really going to backfire for all of us going forward. And he said, he's like, you know what? He goes, my parents really fell down that conspiracy theory rabbit hole, and they've been radicalized. And I almost was, but thank God, like, I had this class, and because I did a whole lecture about Andrew Wakefield and the rise, like, that started the autism myth, right? Google Andrew Wakefield. So I teach my students about that, just to show where it really started in North America and how it really got pushed forward. These lies around vaccines causing certain illnesses, blah, blah, right? And that's where the modern North American kind of misinformation fear around vaccines really started to take hold. And then obviously the pandemic just created this opportunity where everyone was at home and everyone jumped online, and people on the bad side of things were like, oh, this is a gold mine. This is an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And they pounced and they radicalized so many people. And I don't know if that, student of mine, if his parents are still in that hole, but he actively said to me, thank God, you gave me this lecture, because now it clicked that I was being radicalized. This is BS. Oh, yes. This is not based on fact. And come with the facts. But if you paid attention, that they're really, really hurting universities right now. And I think that's obviously deliberate for these reasons. Our whole job often, especially in the social sciences as academics, is to try to fight for more, equality, safeguard the vulnerable. I mean, this is our thing. I taught in a college as well. That's not what you're taught there. So I know, I've seen the difference firsthand. It's more practical. You're not taught these theories and these, understanding relative disadvantage and multiple intersecting axes of discrimination. You learn that in university, and that's where you start to get the bigger picture and go, oh my gosh, these are structural issues, and they're all often tied to profit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to make profit. The first thing you do is attack the workforce, right? So you have to find a way to pay them less, right? So, and they don't want us teaching these things, right? So there's
of course not.
The first university that I can think of closed down under Ford, Laurentian. Mm-hmm. You don't ever hear that happening. This is the environment we're in. Now the fear is we don't have these institutions who are providing these facts and teaching people to think at the bigger picture and showing, larger systemic, structures at play that are often invisible, unless you point them out and you make them visible. And people like you do as well. But, not everyone watches podcasts, right? Not
Unfortunately.
And they're just seeing the algorithm online say that this is fake and this is bad and we want cheap labor and tariffs and blah, 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 right? Where the attacks on education, all of these things, and of course, the fix is, strengthen our public education, strengthen public sector, strengthen public health. But these are the things that the Ford government is actively chipping away at. So It's hard, unless that government is removed, nothing's going to get better. It's just going to get worse. So it's hard to give answers about how to get better when I know it's just going to get worse under Ford. I know it. That is a 100% fact. People say all you have to do, the best predictor of the future is past behavior. I mean, come on. You have so much evidence of who this man is. Someone in the comments said earlier, when people show you who they are, believe them. You have more than enough. But unfortunately, people aren't getting out to vote.
43% turnout in the last election.
We're doing our part. We're trying, but there's only I wish I knew. I'm at a loss, and it's depressing.
It is depressing.
We have a question from one of the kits. I'd like to ask if you have time.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you mind this one of our listeners from the United States? Would you mind enlightening me to how Canada cares for the elderly and those physically incapacitated, even at relatively young ages?
What do you mean at young ages?
People who are physically incapacitated, even at relatively young ages.
Oh, that are living in long-term care.
Yes, so the elderly and those living in long-term care, yes.
Well, we're failing. There's no question. And one of the things that made me really upset about Trudeau, so I always find it funny when people are like, she's a Trudeau obsessed, blah, blah. I actively, criticized him publicly in multiple interviews. Go look it up. When everything happened in military reports and one of the things that I was doing is we put together an advocacy group of literally families of Orchard Villa who had the worst deaths ever, and their lawyer who also
that was in Barrie. Was that in Barrie? That one, Orchard Villa.
Pickering. It's a great day. It's very close to me, and their lawyer who also happened to be my lawyer. So we all said that's it. We got to do something. So we have this momentum. The Prime Minister is alluding to national standards. So we said, okay, oh my gosh. There's no question. We need national standards at every single home because yes, healthcare is a provincial responsibility, but they still get federal funding. Right. So that's the power you can use, right? You can say, if you want these massive transfers to come to the provinces and they're going to go to long-term care, you have to follow these basic standards. So we started having protests, campaigns, awareness campaigns. And we finally, like, the Prime Minister's office contacted me directly for a meeting. And I was like, it worked. We got the awareness. Let's do this. So we met with them. And I said, you know what? You don't even need that much. Just start with 5 standards, 5 around mainly focusing on labor, because it all boils down to staffing. Just start with 5. Literally, just do these 5 things. And you have to, every single home has to abide by this to get federal funds, because you can't force the premiers to do it at the provincial level, as we saw with Ford. He's not interested in putting money to protecting these people. So please, I was like, please, what can we get done at the federal level? And then, so we had that meeting. We're like, hey, we got to keep the pressure on, right? We're going to do what we can. So we had these town halls with experts, families, workers, across Canada. We did like 10 of them. Our first one, Jagmeet Singh joined us. We invited all the leaders. The only one that wouldn't come meet with us was O'Toole, by the way. And I thought it was interestingly, he randomly tried to tweet fight me the other day. And I was like, of all people, you had no time for me when we were trying to get your attention for long-term care, but now you want to say something to me?
Irony, right?
Okay. Like, it was something totally different, because I saw him tweet, sidebar, about the deep state and the CRA. I go, are you seriously saying deep state? Are you seriously doing this right now? Are you importing that insane rhetoric from the States? Mm-hmm. And then he's like, oh, it's because of people like you that say this and talk down to us. I'm like, no. This is not about me being an obnoxious academic. This is about you using very dangerous language to import that kind of insanity here. So you can find that tweet. It's out there. This was not long ago. And I'm like, but you had no time for us when we wanted to talk about long-term care. That aside, they wouldn't meet with us. So we had all these meetings. Finally, we did this for about a year. Massive protests. We got it trending at one point across Canada. Like, we were doing everything we could. And then they strike these national standards committees. And we're like, finally. But then for various different reasons, the process they went through, meaning accreditation, which was already in place and was effectively useless. And I paid attention to people that they involved in the process that had clear connections with the for-profit industry. I said, that's it. Because, of course, my first thing was to them, going forward, you cannot give money to for-profit facilities. Going forward. I understand they're all in existence. We're not telling you to shut them down overnight. But going forward, that money should go to nonprofit only. Private nonprofit, or ideally the public system, municipals, right? Like, do not fund these. It's anti-evidence to fund a model that has clear failure attached to it at pretty much every mechanism, every marker. Like, they're inefficient with their funding. The money's not going like where it's supposed to be going, and it's leading to degraded care, worse staffing conditions, preventable injuries, increased hospitalizations, premature mortality. I mean, what more do you need? When did we get to the point that we're like, we have all this evidence, we're supposed to base policy on evidence, and you're actively ignoring the evidence? So then and then on top of it, so they strike these committees. I say right off the bat, these are going nowhere based on what process you're going through and certain people you have involved. So I was very vocal. And then fast forward a year, these committees do their reports. And it's funny, I was actually approached to join one of them. And I said, well, what's the catch? And one of the catches was that we'd have to sign a non-disclosure agreement. And I said, I'd sooner die. It's not happening. No, thanks. I don't need to put this on my resume and look like I was fancy for 5 minutes. I'd rather talk. I'd rather be able to say what I'm thinking and to comment on the procedure. So I turned that down, and most people don't even know that. But either way, like, I will never choose that. I'm going to be poor but principled my whole life, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. I always joke about that. That's totally fine. So then fast forward a year, and he says, okay, we have these committees, we have these reports, which sure, we're informative, but they were like extensive, like we're talking hundreds of standards. It's like, and then he goes, but they're voluntary. Oh yeah. Nobody's gonna. So some of the municipal homes and like the good homes are like, okay, we'll take these on. The for-profits are never going to take these on. Like, what do you do? Voluntary? So then I did a whole range of media there, and I ripped into our prime minister about that. And so they know how I feel. But that's why I was joking. People are like, you're a liberal, whatever. I'm like I'm not anything. I'm not partisan. I will go after anyone who is putting forward dangerous policy or stupid policy. You name it. I don't care. It's being honest. I'm not partisan. I will literally criticize any leader. I don't care who you're affiliated with. It's about the policy. It's about, are you doing something that is going to help or hinder these people? That's it. That's all I look at. I don't care about the rest. I don't care. Right. Like,
Right.
So don't call me partisan, like what, because I've attacked everyone. Like I mean, you're all free range for me. Like you're all targets. Like anyone is a target. If you do something that is anti-evidence, I'm going to talk about it. There's the tweet. Oh, there it is. And then you'll see his follow-up to me. And then he said something rude. And then I was like, at this point, this is where I hit mute. I'm like, I'm not doing this. Like, yeah, there it is. But like, Deep State, are you seriously going to do this? Oh, hi, Sean.
Do you want to do it? Do you want to do some do a reading, Mr. Grizzly?
Yeah, I will. I'll do the Aaron O'Toole part if you, Dr. Vivian, would be willing to do your part. So, or Aaron O'Toole
Welcome
starts
to
off.
Eager Beaver Theater.
January 16th of 2025, at a time when institutional trust is at all-time lows and commentary about the, in quotation, deep state becoming more common in Canada, the CRA should only act squarely within their mandate and admit error in this case. To which you responded? Doctor, to which you responded to that? Your tweet follow-up, if you could read that?
Is someone playing me? Who's playing me? Or am I supposed to play?
You
Yeah,
play you.
Oh, I can't even see it. Where is it? Because I can't.
Okay, then I will play.
You can do it.
Okay. Deep state? Huh? Seriously? You're going there? Come on.
Polarized rhetoric often starts with a legitimate grievance or concern of some kind, which is twisted into a negative narrative. Indifference or condescension, like your post, can actually fuel its growth.
Oh yeah, so I'm the condescending. I'm the problem here. I'm the problem.
P.S. I'm a criminology professor who teaches about far-right discourse, and I'm aware how troublesome it is when people with large platforms, like yourself, begin legitimizing conspiratorial language like this and associating it with Canada. You can raise concerns without going there.
Always happy to discuss, but your posts are a symptom and not a solution.
To which I'm guessing that's where you probably pressed mute.
I didn't even see his response. But I'm like, because I'm done. You don't want to actually have a real conversation with me because you've had many opportunities. You're just defending your use of that very dangerous rhetoric. And listen, I never punch down. I always punch up.
Right.
Like you have a massive following. You were the previous federal leader. Like you have to be careful. Like you can't. Your words matter, right? Like words matter. And you have this big platform and you're saying stuff like this, which is ridiculous. And you know what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Stop. So that was me trying to just stop. Like, I'm not going to teach you about what you're doing and why it's wrong. Cause you're a smart guy. You were the federal leader. Like, just stop. Like, it's one thing if I'm having a debate about this, but like, if you're coming at me in good faith, and I will always talk to people online if they're actually coming at good faith, right? Like, yeah, John Doe's hilarious. But I'm looking at the comments, but it's like, come on, you're not, and I'm not going to just sit here and be like, oh, but you realize this is, it's dangerous rhetoric. You know what you're doing. And that's when my patience starts to go down with people in those positions of authority, former president, because you have a following, people, are going to be looking at what and then, deep state. O'Toole said deep state. Maybe Canada is the deep state. We have our own deep state. You know where this is going. Why are you doing this? Yes. Why are you bringing this rhetoric here? We know it's dangerous. So that was I got into
it with somebody yesterday, posting pictures of individuals, Asian and South Asian individuals, who said they're part of the trafficking problem of fentanyl in Canada, and that $5 to $10 trillion has been trafficked through Canada. I said, that's not possible.
Find a number. Just pick a number.
I'm like, 5 to 10 trillion? Our GDP is 3 trillion. How could, no. Those numbers are so far off base. It's insane.
Show me the data.
So I called them out and they go, well, no, this person that I know is part of Homeland Security. I'm like, and they're bullshitting you. It is not possible to traffic 5 to 10 trillion.
I also talked to him, and he told me, like,
I'm sitting there. It's like, you don't know anybody in Homeland Security. Come on.
Actually,
you don't know that. If you're coming to me with that number, you don't know nobody in Homeland Security.
In this case, I believe this person does know this person in Homeland Security. However, those numbers are so far off base, it has no basis in reality. Number one. Number two, if he's telling her that, he's in violation of the Secrets Act.
Maybe you want to question the source if it is a real source, right?
And I pointed out to her, I said, look, the problem here is you are targeting Asian and South Asian individuals. And sure, they may be the people, but your platform is big enough that it will influence somebody to go out and do something bad to the next Asian or South Asian person they meet.
Well,
it's exactly what happened during the pandemic. And look what has happened to the Jewish community, right?
Rage farming makes money, right? Unfortunately, ever since, Elon monetized Twitter, it's become the toilet of the internet, right? It's like Facebook. It's you put money. This is it, right? The root of all evil. Money, profit. Like the second you give people an opportunity, and a lot of people don't even know this. Actually, in another class, I teach my students about how Trump. Do you know how he got really in the first time? So you hear about the Macedonian villages that were the center of the misinformation camps.
Yes. Right. Yes.
And all that. Most people don't even know that that's a thing. But there's these groups of people in small little villages who were like, oh, we can make money by saying the most ludicrous things on Facebook because all we just need to do is get attention. And we need people to, and then the advertisers, and then they realized they got this cash cow and they just kept, and read those reports. There's these fascinating investigative reports on it. And there was an American guy who did it too. And he openly admits, I knew I was lying. I knew I was saying the most ludicrous stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It was money. It was money. You monetize a system that literally rewards mis and disinformation. This is where we're at. Like, and when someone said the other day, like, should we ban Twitter in Canada, like some countries? I'm like, do it, man. Like, do it. Like, this is the root of a lot of this evil is these monetized social media platforms.
Agreed. Well, I'm ripping up the contract with Elon Musk for Starlink. It's back on again.
Yeah.
And I remember, even I got excited for a minute, and then I'm like, wait, but look at the wording. The wording. I go, hold on, let's see if he actually does it. And then 5 minutes later, I'm like, again. I thought you would step up for a minute, and then again, you proved me you wouldn't. Again.
My attitude was the same thing. It's like, I'll believe it if you're reelected and it lasts. Yeah. Because it's like, sorry. I mean, it's from him. It's just words now. It's just words now.
Yeah.
Because he's violated. So UBI, I will let the program run through. He didn't, right?
He's being sued for that too.
Yeah, and he's gone back on so many things that he never even campaigned on, right? Like when he reorganized Toronto City Council and all that kind of ripped the EV chargers out. It's the thing with him, right, is that for me, the entire pretext for this election is non-existent. It is manufactured. I think we all agree on this. And he's running on the Trump thing because he can't run on his record because it's absolutely atrocious. Right? So he picked the shortest election time possible.
It's effective, right? People are saying, oh, look, he jumped into the hero. Look. And it's like, what? It was...
But he jumped in to be a hero.
Awful, but it was smart strategically. And I saw someone on the weekend too.
But he should have stayed there and milked that, because where was he when the tariffs actually were going to come down in an election campaign? And now that the election campaign is going to be over on the 27th, but we're not going to know anything until about like March 1st or something like that. The sword is hanging over his head. There'll be no new details. And he's going to getting a new mandate for what? Because nobody knows what's coming down.
On an unnecessary election on top of everything else that could have gone to healthcare. Cool.
Yeah. So the extra thing, these tariffs that are coming allegedly because of border stuff and fentanyl are still over on our head in March. And then there's the report coming down that he ordered an executive order for April. Until we find out what it is that he is going to do on those things, and then he's probably going to jerk us around for another 2 months until we finally figure out what the ask is. Like the other day, he started talking about banking. That's what you're really after. Okay. Thanks for letting us know. So we're going to be going through that again. So it's like he's going to have nothing concrete really to respond to until sometime in May, really, if he gets reelected again. So and he certainly cannot fill up all this time, right? We are the 5th. He cannot fill up 22 days with just Trump tariff. There's got to be something else.
It's always the same, right? It's always this. So the last election too, getting it done. Building stuff and doing this. And it's like, you're building a bunch of, if we're thinking about long-term care, building a bunch of by the way, this is like evidence. You're building a bunch of for-profit facilities. One of them was just in the news literally last month because, which home was it? I got to find this. They literally had to close one of the newest long-term care homes had to be shut down in Sudbury, cease and like desist order because they were endangering the residents. It was a brand new facility, for profit. It's like you can't even you built a brand new facility, and that's all they say. Right? Oh, look, we're building these brand new modern facilities, but they have to be closed down because they're so unsafe to the residents. Like literally, this came out December 20th, 2025. Google this, everyone. City's newest long-term care homes stop from taking new residents. I've compiled a master file of everything since the pandemic began. It's almost 400 pages. So I've documented everything. People don't think you don't think I don't have receipts. I've got receipts for days. I got a book of receipts. I just need to go through and do the keyword search. I don't think I haven't been tracking it. And this is, I think, my education for having the, to go, I should be tracking this. This is what I was trained to do. Take notes, pay attention, document everything. And again, December 20th, I document every single headline that comes out in long-term care. And it's just getting worse. I have all the receipts. I can share everything. This was a brand new home in the Ministry of Long-Term Care to Extended Care. Had to shut it down. By the way, anyone know this fun tidbit about Extended Care? Does anyone know about Extended Care's history in America?
Do I that Extended Care was the homes my mom was in? Do I want to know this?
Probably. One of the for-profit providers. And to make matters worse, they also have a separate branch that has a management firm. So now the worst part, you have to also ask who manages the home, because some nonprofits are now hiring Extended Care Assist to manage the homes, and they manage it like a for-profit. So you're effectively in a for-profit. Oh yeah, the local did a fascinating investigation on that. And I wonder if I shouldn't say this, but the source that they had for that story may have come from me. People have no idea people have no idea the hand I've had in some of the stuff that's been out there. I don't often say that, but the person's identity was protected, and I will protect it till the day I die. Mm-hmm. But if he's here, hi friend. I wonder if he's here, because I saw him like the post yesterday. So I'm like, he might be here. So either way, and he had worked for one of these for Extended Care Assist. He knew all about it. So he's like, this is awful. Like, you have no idea. I had to leave. It was like the death of my soul. So this was an extended care home that had to be shut down, but extended care in the States. So abysmal in the States. In America, the federal government went after them and hit them up with one of the biggest class action lawsuits by the federal government in the States. It was like a $40 million judgment that Extended Care had to pay. And they're like, fine, money's no big deal for us. But they said, you need to do one other thing. So you're going to pay all this money to go towards all the, we've shown that you have inferior staffing. Residents are, dealing with negligent, horrible conditions because of the horrible staffing, all this stuff, right? So then they said, you need to enter into a 5-year corporate integrity agreement with us. And we want to monitor your staffing. We want to monitor all the nurses you're going to hire, that you have to hire. You know what they said? Yeah, we're good. They closed up shop, came to Canada. And we're giving these people money.
And
sign on to a 5-year ethics agreement.
I've worked in extended care homes.
It's all there. All the evidence is there.
Trust me when I say this.
Give them all the money.
These are the worst maintained places out of all of them. They are horribly in bad shape. I mean, to the point where I'm sure you'd have to be pretty desperate to want to stay there. Honest to goodness, some of these homes are filthy.
Where's a bed open, right? Yeah. And by the way, that's also why I was so angry, apart from Bill 7 being a monstrosity, a constitutional monstrosity. Bill 7 kicking people out of hospitals and sending them to long-term care homes, not of their choice. So another thing Ford did, by the way.
Yes.
Sometimes in a whole other city.
Pardon?
Sometimes in a whole other city.
Oh, yeah. It could be up to 200 kilometers. They don't care. You were across Ontario, you're done. Awful. So they one family was charged $28,000. Google that story, for saying no, because we don't want them in the home that you're choosing. It's dangerous. It's a bad record. We don't want this. And they sent them a bill for $28,000. This is what we're doing to vulnerable people who their loved ones at the end of life, and they just want to make sure they're safe. This is what we're doing to people. And part of my initial interviews on the topic when it first got leaked that they were going to do this. And that was another moment where the cartoon character steam came out of the head. I almost cried in an interview. Because I couldn't believe they were doing this. You're targeting an overwhelmingly elderly population that are overwhelmingly in these ALC beds. that are often not even in the emergency department. So they were trying to make it seem like they're trying to clear up emergency departments because at the time that was the issue, but they're not even there. They have separate ALC units. What are you talking about? So it was all nonsense. So I went up there and I said, you don't think that people are already saying, and they are, that this is, so with everything that happened during COVID, the for-profit industry took a hit. There were polls coming out, Canadian national polls saying we want the for-profit sector gone. Like overwhelmingly, Canadians don't want this. So why is this being funded? That aside. So we have all the polls, we have all this. People clearly don't want this. They saw what happened. So you don't think that some of these homes are having trouble filling their beds? They only get paid if they fill those beds. They get paid per bed. Oh, isn't that convenient that now you have a bill that can send people from hospital to some of these places with the lowest wait list? And why do they have the lowest wait list? Because people don't want to go to them. Why don't they want to go to them? Right? So you're literally, and people were saying, is this not a way of you helping out your for-profit buddies by now giving them a forced reserve to fill up their beds and keep getting their money?
Oh.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting how that works?
Oh, wow. Okay. That's clever.
People are big donors for it. Give us a way to fill our beds. Here's a way. Because you can't force the public to go there, but now you can. With the $400 a day threat.
Damn.
It's so bad. Just pay attention, people. It's awful. And you're going to age into this. We're going to age into this. And this is a law now. Like,
Yes.
what? Cool. Which overwhelmingly targets the elderly. And we're all going to get there, God willing, as my grandpa always says.
Well, yes, and you become vulnerable. And look, Doug Ford's currently got us on this cradle to the grave minimum wage program, starting with high school students who, if you don't want to continue high school, you can go into a trade, an apprenticeship program.
My God, I know.
What's an apprenticeship program? A program where you do not get paid
100%.
to learn your trade, which means providing free labor to his developer buddies.
Wild for all these condos that are going up that no one wants to live in. Like they're just empty. No one wants to live in them. Yet they're going up. People want houses. They can't afford them. What's going up? These tiny condos charging like $700,000 if you're in Toronto. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's a joke. Some of them are like 800, especially if you're in Toronto. Sometimes if you're fun, I'll go look at Realtor and I'm like, this is a nightmare.
Well, and let's not forget that he started to eliminate requirements and certain licensees.
Cutting red tape. Yeah.
Expertise and cutting back on health and safety regulations.
Why windows are falling out of these buildings and all this stuff. Didn't want a gym collapse? Like someone was in the gym working out. Like, I mean, this should not be happening. The older buildings are good because they were built in a time where you had safeguards. Like now these buildings are going to fall apart. Then that's fast forward in the next few years. We're going to hear about those deaths. Like you got to think forward, man. This is for so many reasons. This government is bad for our health for so many reasons. Like you can't count. I don't have enough fingers. Keep going.
Well, when I develop mesothelioma, I'm going after my landlord because the building that I'm in was purchased by my current landlord back in August. They have since decided that this building built in 1959, what they've done is they're turning 1 bedrooms into 2 bedrooms, bachelors into 1 bedrooms, and 2 bedrooms into 3 bedrooms. So they're knocking down walls.
Oh my God.
What's in those walls? Asbestos. Yeah. What are they doing? Nothing. There's zero abatement, and it's been documented.
Reduce red tape.
Yeah.
Get it done fast.
When I develop mesothelioma, I'm going after my landlord.
Yeah, getting it done. Future cancer rate explosions. Yeah. Awesome. Getting it done. Getting it done. So
now that we're in this election, what would you recommend that Ontarians look for? Like let's say that we're eliminating Doug Ford because we know what he's all about. I have the choice between the people are looking to make another choice. We have the choice between the other three. What should we listen to them? What should we be listening for them saying? What's when they're talking about stuff? What is some solid policies?
Healthcare, survive. Like a livable wages, staff, like the just protections for workers, protections for a universal income would be great. All of these things, right? Like just. Anyone that's talking about protecting the vulnerable, obviously, that's where I always look at, but also everyone. And we're all vulnerable when we're sick or we can't afford, safe housing or we can't afford to have a good, stable job that we're protected in. And we have employee protections. Like I always look at anything that will protect you as a person. And often, obviously, you need those protections the most, the more vulnerable you are for whatever reason. But those are the policies to pay attention to. And for me, it's always, healthcare is massive. Like that's going to impact everyone. And those that are not overtly talking about fixing what's happening in healthcare. And this is a monumental time where people are trying to literally create a 2-tiered US style system of healthcare. Like, if we don't fight this now, because once you start privatizing things, once the genie comes out of the bottle, you can't put it back in. Look at long-term care. Look how hard it is for us. We with the worst mass casualty in our collective long-term care history. What happened? Tens of thousands of seniors died in the worst way that could have been prevented because we had this massive for-profit sector that just wasn't checked, and they will never be checked. So anyone that is talking about privatizing or modernizing or doing nonsense like that, I'm out. Immediately out. That should be your biggest red flag.
Okay.
Public systems, protect the public sector. That is the safest way to protect all of us. So anyone that's talking about privatization, run the other way.
That's good. That's good to know.
We've been talking for almost 2 hours.
I know.
I was
That's
like,
great.
I'm do an hour. I've got to go to work. So I will stop it at 9 because I do have to go to lunch. I'm like, it's so easy to talk to you. Just time flies by. Sorry for everyone if you've been kept hostage by us. I hope you've had fun. Has everyone had fun? Like, it's fine.
The comments have been great.
Coming up, and I'm like,
the comments have been great. People are really into it. Oh, no.
Today, but I hope I did okay.
Oh, you're amazing.
Oh, no.
Amazing as
Yes.
always.
Yes.
As always.
No. Listen, we need more passion. We need more passion. We're the people who are talking to us and the people that do not have our best interest at heart, right? They're trying their best to either fake sincerity or they're using all those buzzwords that you're mentioning, right? Cutting red tape, efficiencies, modernizing, all the.
Yeah.
And your ear needs to be attuned because the way the game, I don't want to say the way the game is played has changed, because these are all things that happened all throughout time, throughout politics, using buzzwords and trying to find the right words and euphemisms and other ways to frame things. But the speed and the overall amount of content, like we're being flooded with it. And as you were mentioning, it's the goal here is to make everything unknowable. So you take down the news because the news can't tell you the truth. They're all in the bag. And then you take down the academics and the experts because they're all in somebody's pocket like this, or they think they're better than you. They're not better. Your ignorance is just as worthy as their 7 years or 10 years of studying a PhD. It's like you're a person, all thoughts are equal, right? All opinions are equal.
You think I went to a PhD to make money? I was pretty much like, it was like, you're not getting paid, right? Like, so for like a good 10 years, it was effectively like, I was maybe making 20 grand a year, maybe. Like, you can't and then I started to work full time. Now, obviously that extended things because I'm trying to juggle. Like, you don't do this for the money. If I wanted to make money, I'd go in the private sector. Like, people try to say that we're like these elites. Like, I always it's hilarious. I remember once early in pandemic, someone was like, look at this woman with their fancy antiques and we can't listen to these elites. I'm like, dude, this is from Value Village. This is everything has been secondhand in my place. Anyone that knows me, literally Value Village, I am the secondhand queen because I cannot afford it. People think we make a ton of money. No, we don't. We don't do this for the money.
So you know what they're saying though, right?
Money. You go into the banking. Come on.
But you know what they're doing, right? They're actually complimenting your exceptionally good taste.
Thanks. With what I have, I try, but it's not
right. No, but I mean, if they're sitting there going look at that elite. I mean, if they think it's worth a lot in itself, then that means you have exceptionally good taste.
It's an insult, right? It's an insult. Yeah, it's both, right? You try to, all you hear is the insult.
I mean, for that to be true, the other thing also has to be true.
Well, and I find with my advocacy too, I get two things. I get people saying, "Oh, she's so passionate," and it's or she's the angry woman, and it's well, both things can be true and can be true. How, what do you think? And it's funny because my students know me as I'm very affectionate with my students and I'm very maternal, and it's a total. So now that they're seeing me do interviews, they're like, "Oh my God, I never saw this side of Vivian." Dr. Viv, they call me Dr. Viv. And I'm like, well, how can I get up here talking about mass casualties and intense level of suffering and trauma. And it stays with me just like it stays with those families. And it's like, you think I'm going to get up there and be like, yes, this is a problem. And you know, like, we can do better next. I'm sorry, I'm a fiery Greek. I have always been this way. If there's injustice, I cannot be like, oh, it's okay. Like, we'll do better next time. No, of course I'm angry. People are dying. I'm not talking about which brand of chips you like. People are dying. And then I'm always amazed when people are like, my God, this woman is so passionate. How can you not be passionate about this? People are literally dying by the hour in horrible preventable deaths. I would hope that I would show some emotion, or I'd frankly be worried if I didn't. Like,
and that's something,
an insult, right? I'm like,
that's something I share with you because as a gay man, I went through the HIV and AIDS crisis. It was the same thing. TikTok, people are dying. Can you approve this damn medication already?
Yeah.
Right. So when you are motivated by a sense of urgency and the world around you is not, it is extremely frustrating.
Yeah. And then you get leaning, that's the angry person.
Yeah. So
go ahead.
I just wanted to finish this point.
Go ahead.
So, you know, we're seeing all this stuff, right? Take down the news, take down the academics, take down the institutions, scrub the websites, tear down everything, deride, dehumanize, devalue, debase, absolutely everything. But that creates a world, the overall objective is to create a world where nothing can be known. And where nothing can be known, the people that are doing this stuff to us, that are like this, then there's only them to listen to.
100%.
That's the objective. That's why it's like, you know, when you're pointing all these stuff out, I guess we like to try to bring it back to a civics or political literacy or media literacy perspective. The overall global game that's going on is to try to create a world where you cannot know anything.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
and since we're all humans and we all have to trust someone, because you don't get through life without trusting someone. But you can't know anything. And you can't know who to trust, and you can't know who's lying. That's not a good world for anyone. That's why you have to resist bullshit and you have to be loud.
And the irony is that the people that are saying free speech are the ones trying to limit free speech. Like Trump literally I saw this yesterday on Twitter, where they're talking about going after all the public institutions who are applying for funding that use certain catchwords. I tweeted it yesterday. Literally, if you mention advocacy, activism, and a bunch of keywords like that, they're going to start pulling your funding.
Yeah, literally.
What?
Well, you're a social group and you can't advocate.
Hurting you. They want to hurt any motivation to level the playing field and protect people who aren't in these massive, oligarchies and at the very, very top. The irony is the ones trying to say that, the academics are the problem and we're the elites. Like, you're the elites. You're the ones limiting literally any progressive movement to protect the people. Like, what? Like, it's just wild.
You're the ones using your money, your power, and your position to stop everyone else from getting ahead.
It's wild. It's wild. I don't understand how MAGA doesn't see any of this.
Well, I think one of the reasons being so many people seem to think and are convinced they'll be the next billionaire like Elon Musk. And I'm like, what was it George Carlin said? The American dream, the American dream. You know why it's called the American dream? You got to be asleep to fucking believe it.
Sorry, just laughed. Someone said Dr. Viv for the fentanyl czar.
Yes.
Yesterday, someone posted a photo of Bonum, and I was dying laughing. I was like...
Well, I read something...
Wouldn't Bonum be the cocaine czar?
I saw
Bonum would be the cocaine czar. Yeah.
No, right? I mean...
It's just... Serenity now. That's a good note to end on. Bonum.
I read something the other day that I think is pertinent and prevalent and important to remember. It's from Dan. Oh, and his surname is escaping me right now. He does a sex advice column.
Dan Savage.
Thank you, Dan Savage. Thank you. He wrote something the other day, and I'm going to try and remember it as best I can. I thought I bookmarked it, but I didn't, unfortunately. But he said, during the AIDS pandemic, and don't kid yourself, it was a pandemic. Every day we would go out and protest in the streets and demand that our governments did things. And every night we would go out and dance and rejoice that we had another day. Don't stop dancing. Don't stop rejoicing. Fight during the day and enjoy your evening, because you need to have pleasure in your life, because without it, you'll die.
And you got to try to still see the good in other people, because this timeline is trying to turn everyone against each other, and it's, you gotta, like, I take those opportunities to see the good in people, and whenever I get those moments of like, oh, humanity, I see someone do something nice for a stranger, I'm like, yes, you gotta remember, if you spend too much time online, it's like you think the world is going to hell, but then you get out into the real world, you're like, okay, no, people still, at least in Canada, are still sane and are good people, and we just need to remember that not, social media is not necessarily reality. Right?
I found the quote right here. This is good.
Yeah.
During the darkest days of the AIDS crisis, we buried our friends in the morning. We protested in the afternoon, and we danced all night. The dance kept us in the fight. Sorry, I'm getting emotional about this, and I wasn't even affected by the AIDS pandemic. The dance kept us in the fight because it was the dance we were fighting for. It didn't look like we were going to win then, and we did. It doesn't feel like we're going to win now, but we could. Keep fighting, keep dancing. Hold on to hope. Keep fighting. Don't give up the fight. Don't give up the fight.
Yeah.
We're inspired to keep going. We can't. We will. I will. I promise. I can promise everyone who knows me that. They know me.
We know this. We know this. This is why we're so happy to finally get you on the show, because we know how passionate you are. We know how committed
We're hoping your passion
passion
fuels other people.
Yes.
That's the hope, right?
We're hoping that whatever you have is contagious.
Knowledge.
Spread it around.
Knowledge. It's the knowledge I have. I think if anyone had the knowledge, and they how can you not? How can you not care? How can you not? Just knowledge, right? Get it out there. Share.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us. And please, you are welcome back anytime. If you got something to say, please call us, because we want to hear you say it.
Everyone, I love seeing these comments. People are so cute. It's been such a pleasure. I love when I see this. It's nice. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Thanks for having me. I was excited. I was up every hour. I'm like, come on, I gotta be on this talk tomorrow. Why are you waking up every hour? But I feel good. This conversation fueled me, so I feel more alert and more alive. So thank you, and thanks for.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Have a magnificent day, and
you too.
Whenever you want to come back, just reach out to either one of us, and we'll have you back anytime.
Sounds good.
We
do something nice randomly for a stranger today, or a loved one. Just something. It'll make you feel good. And then you'll, because this conversation can get dark, just do something nice today for someone you love or a stranger, and see how it makes you feel.
Look,
but just.
Dr. Phil's right at home, because I was just about to ask for her words of wisdom, and she just gave them.
There you go. That's the words of wisdom.
It's like you've been here all along. Have a most wonderful day. Thank you so much. We really do appreciate it.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.
Bye. Mr. Grizzly, I just sent you, sorry, I did not send, hold on, but I will send it right now. I just sent you something because it's the quote that you just highlighted, because I saw it too. And I had highlighted it a couple of days ago, and I put a little something on top of it that I would like you to show the kids, because often I get asked the question, it's like, how can you be so positive and how can you be so optimistic? Right. And I saw that quote that you read, and it was like, well, that's why.
That's why.
That's why. Because again, it's like I've been through my pandemic. I've been through my war. I've been through the period of time where nobody cared whether or not me and my people lived or died while something was attacking us. Right. So people wonder how it is. It's like, I've known this already. And for those of us who did survive and get through it, because we lost a lot of people along the way, but for those of us who did, like this, all the more fabulous. We got same-sex marriage after, we got full rights, we got, right? So I keep on saying, as I say in the end, whenever you think things are at their darkest, never stop chasing rainbows. You got to keep dancing, because the dancing is what you're fighting for. You need to remind yourself what you're fighting for.
Absolutely.
Right.
Well, this has been a hell of a show. It's, as always, whenever I engage with Dr. Vivian, it's enlightening and educational. and I engage with her frequently on, well, mostly Blue Sky these days.
Yeah.
She's just a wonderful person and has a knowledge and a skill set and a passion that we need to see and hear more of. We need
And
to
this
see
is
and hear
what-
more of it.
And you need to see it because this is what a focus on people actually looks like. So when you have your politicians talking to you like this and you want to know if they're actually focused on people, look at the tone, look at the passion, look at the inflection. Look at all of it, right? Not just the words, right? How much are you walking your talk? When you know stuff, your facts so much that you can pull them up like that and you're keeping books and receipts and notes like this, you care about a subject deeply, profoundly. You've made it your mission, your vocation. There are good politicians out there. But we need discernment.
Yes.
To be able to tell who's who. And having guests like Dr. Vivian, who speak from the soul, who speak from a place of passion, who can tell you what the buzzwords are, who can tell you what it is to look out for. That's also the reason why experts are important. Not so much, not only for the knowledge, the hard knowledge about the subject in which they have a field of expertise, but all the knowledge they've acquired along the way in advocating to move the ball forward. Who are the players? How things move forward? What are the unwritten rules? What's the culture of the place?
Well, she has 400 pages of receipts since the start of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. She's
the go-to, the authority when it comes to the issues we have with long-term care in this province.
Yep. Yeah. So this election, right, that we have going on in Ontario, there's now more bandwidth to talk about Ontarians and the issues that matter to you. And yes, we all care about tariffs and whatnot, keeping the jobs and all that type of stuff. I'm not saying that this doesn't matter. But there's more to running a province and providing a good quality of life to your people than making sure that trade keeps happening. Right? You can't keep on bragging to the world that, you have this Ontario advantage about like great workers and great people. Our advantages are people. If somewhere along the way you stopped educating them and stopped taking care of their health, at some point, the investment of the last 20 years is going to run out.
Mm-hmm.
So you need people who are actually literally focused on people for reals. And that's the other reason why we bring you people like Dr. Vivian. Not in it for the money, not in for the fame, not in it for the glory. And can speak from both sides. As an academic, but somebody who's actually had parents go through the experience and trying to navigate the system for them. Someone who's out there talking to all the people and accumulating all the personal stories and then able to synthesize them and bring us that information. She listens to their pain so we don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're going to get the privilege of not actually listening to the pain, when someone like Dr. Vivian comes up and says, hey, you need to pay attention to this, then we should be paying attention. Because
you just
if we're going to
right
spare
there.
ourselves the pain, then, we should at least be willing to step up when we're called upon.
The magic word, though, the privilege of ignoring the pain.
Yes.
Privilege. I was watching a movie last night with Bridget. It's called Lee. It's about a photojournalist in World War II. And there's scenes where they go to Dachau and find the cattle cars filled with dead bodies. The Holocaust, World War II. I don't think there's a trigger warning that needs to be said about that. It's World War II. But there was when that scene came up, I just said, you need to look away because she can't handle it. And she said, I recognize the privilege I have to be able to do that. It's a privilege to be able to look away. It's too much for her to take because, it's harsh. It's a great film. It's Kate Winslet is in it. It's a brilliant film. I loved it from start to finish. Well, loved it. How do you say you love a film about something like that, about that subject matter, but, greatly appreciate it. Greatly appreciated the film. It was brilliant. And, you have to understand it is a privilege to be able to look away. And there are times when I tell people you need to forego your privilege today. When it comes to long-term care, you cannot look away because guess what? That will be you if you are fortunate enough to live that long. You're next. You are next.
Yeah. Yeah. You're absolutely right, Mr. Grizzly. You got to pay attention. You got to pay attention. All right. Mr. Grizzly, do we have a show?
We do indeed, sir.
We have one hell of a show, I think.
Oh, boy, do we.
Woo. And yesterday was one hell of a show, too. Mr. Grizzly, by the way, it was our most watched organically, without any advertising behind it, show ever. So people are tuning in. I've noticed this on other shows. I listened to the Daily Beans and whatnot, and they've noticed that after the U.S. election that there was a huge influx of people that have come to podcasting that have left the other media.
Mhm.
And have come to podcasting, and maybe we haven't had an election yet that's had a devastating outcome where people are going to be looking to places, but maybe some of that trend is starting to happen at our end too, because this is it's really fast. I mean, I know we're doing other things, like this to market and stuff like that, but even with that, that's fast. So thank you to all who are tuning in and taking a look and giving us a chance. And thank you, Kit T. Wigmore, for the compliment there, saying that we had an awesome show. Thanks.
Well, I think a lot of people tuned in because they wanted to hate watch us, but that's fine. I don't care. Hate watch us.
That's
hate
fine.
watch us all the way to the bank.
Absolutely. So we hope that you enjoyed this, because we really loved making this one for you. Remember, Kids and Cubs, sharing is caring, word of mouth is priceless. So tell your peeps and poops all about us. It matters. Word of mouth, like I said, there's nothing better. And Kit Uncover, I hope that you're feeling better soon, because I know you're a bit under the weather. But even under the weather, you keep on pumping our tires. So wow, thank you. Yeah. Now, if you would like to make sure you don't miss an episode, especially in a podcast version, well, you can scan that QR code, and that will bring you to our pod page, which is very generously sponsored by the Ray Girl. Podpage.com/The True North Eager Beaver, lowercase letters. Well, it doesn't matter if they're lowercase or uppercase, as Mr. Grizzly told us, but with a hyphen between each one of the words, The True North Eager Beaver. And when you go there and click subscribe, well, hey, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, zip right to you. This is the actual good slip and slide.
Once I get caught up with the edits and corrections, slowly, I'm
but
getting
there's
on
been
it.
stuff.
There's been stuff, and I gotta upload them.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm having technical glitches too when I'm trying to run stuff through a certain piece of software. It just keeps crashing every time. So trying to get everything updated and edited correctly so that I can get them back on. I'm working on it, but there's been stuff, yes, and I've had issues, emotional issues as of late with my mental health, but the technology seems to be failing, and I'm going to try another workaround to see if I can fix things.
Okay.
So
I know you're trying hard. I know you're trying hard. So please, thanks to the Ray Girl, subscribe to our pod page, and like I said, eventually all things will be settled and we'll have everything on a regular schedule. But we do thank you for your patience. If you would like to, Kids and Cubs, help us in other ways, then you need to make like Kit Lane and surf on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page, where 12,700 other people have subscribed, and you can join them by clicking our buttons like, share, and especially subscribe. So if you would like to do that, that helps us with the algorithm and, gets us a little happy. And if you're able to watch in the mornings here on the YouTube channel, well, you get to converse with the best damn fam in all of podcasting. That alone is quite a treat. I have to say that. Now, if you would like to help us in other ways, for example, hey, let's say financially, because we do take on a few costs and bring in the show to you. And if you would like to help us underwrite those, well, we have the Emergency Hydration Fund. That's what we call it whimsically, but it's really our tip jar. And if you would like to support us and show us a little encouragement because you like what we do, well, that's where you would go to do it. It's ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word, lowercase letters. And If you are a conscientious Canadian that would like to buy Canadian and would therefore like to bypass PayPal because you want to bypass the US Tech Bros, then if you just send us a direct transfer to truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com, then our Canadian banks get it, whatever fees there are instead. So that's buying Canadian. Please do leave us the password. If you do that, someone did make a donation yesterday, but did not leave us the password. And so we cannot collect it. But for Kit Charles, who left us a very enthusiastic expression of support and encouragement. Thank you so very much, dear one. I really appreciate it, particularly coming from you, because I know how much you care about the show. So thank you so much. All right. And of course, if you can't subscribe, if you can't, give a little financial contribution, that's fine, because you're here. And that's what matters. Your participation and all the other ways you contribute in the chat, by sending us stories, tips, all that kind of stuff, even just your comments. So we like to hear from you. truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is also the address to which you would send such comments. Good, bad, or ugly. If ugly, however, be gentle and maybe constructive, because, we are sensitive creatures. But we do take all of it, compliments and constructive criticism, because they help make the show better. So thank you very much. You can also reach us at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge, at True Eager, The Bad Place, also at True Eager, Facebook, True North Eager Beaver, or if you're listening on YouTube, right down here in the comment section. We read everything, even though we're not able to get back to everyone. Let's see, what else do we have? Because democracy is something that you do. Ontario election. If you have some candidates that you like, get involved. Door knock, phone bank, that type of stuff. Volunteer in a certain way. Quebec Liberal leadership race. Keep track of your candidates, make sure that you're registered. And of course, the federal Liberal leadership, though you can't register anymore, if you are registered to vote, please do pay attention, because you want to make the best informed choice that you can. All right.
Indeed.
Mr. Grizzly, do you have some words of wisdom?
No, I think Dr. Viv gave us all the words of wisdom we could. I'm no way I'm going to top that, so I don't even want to try. Look, and I know I can't score one today, so I'm not even going to take the shot.
Gotcha.
I do have an Easter egg, though, that breaking news.
Perfect. Okay.
Easter egg.
Thank you to whoever scanned. Kids, it could be a tough world, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. Mr. Grizzly, please cue the cock, and I can't wait to see the Easter egg. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors: the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters; CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community; and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music.
So this is, I said it's breaking news, but it's not breaking per se. This came out yesterday at 12:34 p.m., but I didn't know about it until just a few moments ago.
Okay.
This is interesting. I don't know if you're aware of this. I'll put it on the screen and read it to those listening. PC's Liberals both vow to upload the responsibility of Ottawa's LRT. So they're going to hand it over to Metrolinx. I just learned about this now. I did not know this. Yeah, they're going to hand it over to Metrolinx.
I watched the press conference yesterday, because had we not had a guest, Doug Ford's press conference was going to be what I was going to focus on today. But yes, that was the big announcement that, yes, they're going to upload, which frankly needs to be done, because that thing is a mess, and the province is better equipped to handle it.
From Bonnie Crosby, we don't trust Doug Ford's Metrolinx to make important decisions about the future of LRT in Ottawa from downtown Toronto. So we're very concerned about that proposal. Stefan Blais, the Liberal candidate for Orleans, told CBC in an interview. I agree with him.
Yes, that's true. Both things are true. Is that it does need to be uploaded by the province because it's just too big and such a mess, and they've got the better power to do it. But again, we can't trust Doug Ford to do the right thing first. And if he does do the right thing first, we can't trust him to do it the right way. So
they'll get $1 billion, a few $1 billion for a new relief line in downtown Toronto, and the LRT will get $100,000. Right?
But yes, but hopefully maybe one of the other two parties will also put uploading that in their platform, and then that might be an actually better idea, because it's a good idea. It's just not a good idea that Doug Ford be responsible for anything having to do with it.
Good idea, however,
wrong guy. Good idea, wrong guy. But yeah, there's that whole press conference was notable for a couple of other reasons, because that was the first one after the hot mic incident, and how Doug Ford tries to explain that is awful.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet.
Awful. But pardon my language, but after I watched it, I had 3 words: glub glub, motherfucker. Just sorry, it was terrible. So yes, we will bring that to you tomorrow. A little cliffhanger showing a little thigh, as well as some leg and ankle to you kids and cubs. Unless something completely freakish happens somewhere else to completely upend the news agenda, we'll probably be bringing you some Doug Ford drowning tomorrow.
Well, from Toronto down, Metrolinx and Crosslinks are the ones responsible for Eglinton Crosstown. You really think it's going to be better? The Eglinton Crosstown's been under construction for 11 years? Is it that long? I know it's way over budget. I just don't know what the time frame. I think it's 11 years it's been under construction for. I mean, come on. That goes back to the Liberal government who started that project.
Mm-hmm.
And it just keeps, you cannot put this all on Doug Ford. You can't.
No.
Because that's irresponsible to do so.
Right.
It started under the Liberal government.
But he did not make it better.
He didn't make it better.
At all. Like, at all.
But we can't put it all on him. That's what I'm saying. We have to be, if we're going to be fair and balanced, if we're going to be truthful, we can't blame it all on him.
Absolutely.
He just didn't improve it. That's all. All right. I got to go. I got to get Ms. Lola out. She's doing the pee dance. So
all right.
I'll see you.
Bye.